bust out the sunscreen and bust out the sunshades, although I don't have my shades on me. I was about to pull it out. So, you know, prop number 1 already dissipated, but don't worry, we got more props for the rest of the show because it's week 2 of the EGL Summer Showdown. And for those gamers that got a chance to witness last week's action, thanks to our wonderful friends in Kangas and Joshi, who did a great job of covering all the spicy action, we have a lot to talk about and dive into before our 2 broadcasted series of the day. But before we get any further, we got some proper introductions. I've got 2 lovely people who I got to meet in person for the first time a couple weeks ago over in St. Louis at the Gateway Legends Collegiate Invitational. I'm once again joined here on the desk by Lisa Jolly Malhas and Dean Rebel Fox Merrick as well. First of all, gamers, we got the pool party Rebel Fox cosplay busted out once again. I'm loving it. We got the Summer Beach vibes. I'm going to come to you, Jolly, first, because there's already something that you were super eager to talk about before we got even to our first series of the day.
Was there? Was there?
Tiebreakers. I thought we were talking about tiebreakers.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if that's what you're leading in with. Yeah, absolutely. I'm like, oh, yeah. I mean, there were a lot of things that I wanted to talk about, all right, coming up into these matches because we've seen some exceptional matches. And yes, we have a lot of tiebreakers right now set up for this group, for the 4 groups currently in here. And, you know, I mean, we are looking at some teams here really needing to get 2-0s, Resolve being one of the first ones that we were looking at here. But if TSM loses, then they're gonna, or loses 2, they're gonna be even at 4-4. If Cloud9 wins 2, they're gonna be at 5-2. And you guys are gonna have to do the math there if that's not the case. If OQ wins 2-0, then they're at 4-2. So low losses, but low games played as well for OQ. So there's a hard tie in the record and the map score right now if TSM loses 2-1 and Cloud9 wins 2-1. So that has to be specifically both of those teams winning 2-1. And then in Group D, the only way there's a tie is if Zeus loses while Dig and AoE both win. So there are a bunch of different possibilities that could pan out here, and we'll keep you guys up to date as well on how that kind of transpires and how our bracket looks as the day goes on.
Yeah, that's mainly going to be Rebel Fox's job. I'm looking at you, buddy. I don't let the pool party cosplay give away. He is the brains behind our desk today. He's just crunching the numbers. He's got the sheet pulled up. But, you know, Rebel Fox, I want to come to you as we pull up our groups here and the rest of the series graphics for the rest of the day. Because we got to show, as Jolly already pointed out, we have a lot of surprising results in groups, mainly B and C. We can go looking over Group A, a lot of things we kind of expected. Wildcard Red and EGP dominating the top of Group A. It's going to be determined later on today whether we're going to see a Wildcard Red or EGP taking the first seed. But for Group B, let's talk about this one first, because Jolly already mentioned it before. TSM A. My goodness, Rebel. Like, how this team came out of the waterworks. We were expecting Cloud9 and Resolve to be dominating the first and 2 seed respectively, but TSM Amateur, this roster of Eclipse, Frost Force, Doxa, Gorka, and Dombre have just come out of the gate swinging here in the EGL Summer Showdown. Oh, Rebel will be coming through in just a moment. Let's try that again. Test. Oh, it's just, we just don't have Rebel. Okay.
Hello?
Okay. Well,
now is it on?
Are you clear to us, buddy?
I think I'm here. All right.
Let's go! Okay, okay.
Things are fixed. Okay, cool. All I was talking about in the brief seconds that I was missing away from everything and all the lovely voices that I was supposed to be a part of is the combination of TSM and Cloud9 and some of these teams that have been developing for a couple of months. It's really nice to see them finally start to take root and really grow into the mold we thought they were going to be, because like TSM came out and in the qualifier they lost out of like the quarterfinals, which put them in like the bottom seeding tier to come here into the Group B. So our expectations were like, they've had some okay performances, haven't quite been able to crack it. This is where everything's really started to come together for them, and they've been playing really, really good League of Legends. Same with C9, where like C9, I mean, obviously they qualified already. They were able to bring it back and able to take a series in the previous week, and now they get to fight for their life here to make sure they can keep going inside of this tournament. But the turnaround from these 2 squads from even just the beginning of the season has been wonderful to watch.
And then going over to Group C in a couple of moments, Jolly, this is really the rise of the LCS amateur squads, because during spring, Evil Genius's Prodigies was the only squad that seemed to have a stronger footing, even when Cloud9 Amateur was showing a little bit of strength during the Wisdom Giant Slayer Gauntlet run. It was, as Rebel pointed out, really towards the middle of the summer during Risen Championships just a couple of weeks ago that Cloud9 Amateur started popping up as a major force, and in this tournament alone, TSM Amateur and 100 Thieves Next are respectively dominating their groups.
Absolutely, yeah. 2-0 for 100 Thieves Next, and, nobody else has really been able to pull as much weight. Obviously, 1-1 there. And Maryville, who, for us especially, is a huge name in this, going down, also facing 1-1, and, GLV as well, 0-2. So, it's no surprise based on the names that we have on some of these teams, but at the same time, to see teams like Maryville University not quite having the funding, the facilities, the staffing and the coaching that a lot of these upper teams have, like 100 Thieves X, like C9 Amateur that we've been talking about here. So it is nice to see a lot of these players mix and match as well, jumping all over the place, whether they've been members of Maryville and AoE and are now on 100 Thieves, or vice versa. So it's not like these teams don't know each other. And I think that's what amateur and collegiate is kind of coming down to right now, is everybody really getting the feels for the players that are currently a part of these groups and just trying to figure out the best way to mix and match to really get cohesion within a player roster.
Yeah, the Maryville University has been a team we've been watching this entire 2021 year to kind of really find their groove and form, because when we look at season 2020 for the summer scouting ground circuit, Rebel Fox, you have been someone who've been on the Maryville University facilities. You got to witness firsthand the power of that roster when Niles and Iconic were still with them, when Wolfie was still being the main shot caller. But during the spring, as they were trying to, go through some roster changes, some staff changes, we really saw Maryville University come to light during the Gateway Legends Collegiate Invitational there.
It was exciting because I think it's finally their roster beginning to take shape in what it wants to do. It's a combination of a differentiation in coaching, a differentiation in these players with Spyrax having stepped in, and then you had different ADCs kind of shuffling in and out throughout the season. And once all of those pieces started to connect, that was about Gateway Legends. And from that point, we've seen them really kind of take a hold, because right at the end of Risen, of course, they nearly made it into finals testing C9. Were able to make that reverse sweep happen, take third place, get a bunch of points to come back after losing out very early inside of Challengers Uprising. And now, of course, they get a chance this week with this new roster to test against AoE. Perhaps the most upsetting thing about this matchup is that both of these teams are super good, and I love a lot of the players on both squads. 100 Thieves picked the perfect time to ruin all the fun for these two teams, because they are electrifying inside of this group. But man, losing one of these teams is going to be a tragedy one way or the other.
And we'll definitely have to keep you updated on that matchup as we get further and further in the series. But we do have to kind of bring our focus back over to Group B, because our first broadcasted series of the day is Cloud9 Amateur and Resolve. And as Jolly pointed out, there's a lot of tiebreaker possibilities. And I guess if we open up the flow chart, if A happens, B happens, then C, X, 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 X. And so we'll be doing our best to keep you informed of what are the remaining possibilities as the games progress. But a little bit of something that, as we got a chance to talk with Cubby and TJ, who will be commentating and covering the series today in our first broadcast for this week. The two junglers, EXU, for Cloud9 Amateur and for Fnatic and Resolve. These are two of the players that we're going to be kind of looking at in particular in this series, because Fnatic has been one of the strongest junglers coming out of Proving Grounds even during spring and into the summer, although Resolve has been kind of on a slump, whereas as Rebel Fox pointed out, Jolly, EXU has been really hitting his stride during the summer right now.
Yeah, and not only that, with how Resolve really has been working together, they are absolutely at their peak and at their best when Fnatic can really take over the game, can really show something early on and allow these laning phases to go the way that they want. Because if you get a shutdown, if XU is able to take down Fnatic, there's not a lot in terms of the win conditions that Resolve have as a team. And XU has just been so incredible at really, really wide champion pools, though there are very similar, Fnatic and XU. So that one's going to be fun. Honestly, everyone's talking about the jungle. I'm most excited excited here about the mid lane matchup because both of these mid laners have the most ridiculous champion pools. I mean, these are the guys that have pulled out the Rumble before it was actually a thing. They're bringing out the A-Soul. I mean, keeping the Ziggs in the mid lane. All kinds of crazy cool things and like an unlimited champion pool there.
I think Shrimps being the Rumble player and the A-Soul going over the APA. Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I think when it comes to other mid laners, you know, when we go down the list of like, okay, you know, is it Orianna Syndra meta? Okay, yeah, these two champions are definitely on the higher priority list. And then for a while, it's been a lot of fighters and bruisers mid. So stuff like Lee Sin for a while. We've also seen Viego in the solo lane as well. But then you go to APA and Shrimps are like, no. We're slamming Pantheon mid. Yeah. We're slamming freaking Xerath mid. If you saw it off, like, yeah. Twisted Fate now popping kind of back up in both of these two wheelhouses. Because I think when you look at these two mid laners' playstyles and at least where a majority of their name first came from, and obviously APA has diversified its playstyle in more recent time versus Captain Shrimps, but both kind of started off here, Rebel Fox, as a I want to say like a roam-centric playstyle, because when you think about APA, his claims of being a 3-trick, A-Soul, Talia, and Kled, and in Captain Shrimps, I always just think of Rumble, Pantheon, and Fizz. And so those champions don't want to be in lane, they want to get out of lane, and they want to impact the map.
That they do. It's the style I think specifically Resolve had a bunch of kind of momentum with, even back into like Barrage days when they were together and they were playing in that roof. That was the combination. Was like you get Fnatic and APA together, you attack side lanes over and over again, and that feels like something that has gone at least a little away. They've relied on a lot more stuff that sits in the laning phase. They've relied on stuff like Ziggs that can have impact across the map, but like not as much as what a roaming champion might have. And maybe that's part of what like Resolve needs to accomplish in a series like this, where it's like, okay, how do you get APA involved with Fnatic? Because that combination is always going to be more powerful. And especially against C9, where like XU and Captain Shrimps, they're two players that we highlight on this roster as being extremely good. Their control of that mid-jungle position, not only in like what they do with their side lanes, but just the power that those two band-aids on their own within this that two-role system is really good for C9. So for Resolve, it's about attacking that combination. For C9, it's about isolating that and saying, okay, we're going to take to you with Captain Shrimps and with XU, and we're going to run the map from that point and make sure Resolve doesn't get put pieces together. And that's the dynamic that we're going to get a chance to see directly unfold for us today.
We've gotten a chance to see both of these two teams' victory conditions kind of laid out, and in some ways that they are, you know, similar. You know, you're talking about Cloud9 Amateur. It's really EXU trying to help Captain Shrimps get out of lane, so then he can start running the map. And for other colleagues that in the Proving Ground scene, like Smax and I, have been heralding Wixie for almost the longest time. Yeah, Smax has even gone on forth and saying that he is the best player or prospect in Proving Grounds in terms of people that have not gone into the Academy or LCS quite yet. So sorry, Arrow, we can't. But, you know, giving our props over to Arrow, as he's been a fantastic performer in Proving Grounds. But, you know, this bottom lane for Cloud9 Amateur, I want to talk about them a little bit more, because they're going up against a bot lane in Resolve who has Array and Winter. Winter is someone who has a long history and has always been a great support in his own right. And Array came from Supernova, from the spring roster, where Array is someone who has always had amazing team fighting. When it came to laning phase, though, it was just something that he needed to work on. But I want to say that even in Resolve's losses that might seem disappointing to fans, Array has really stepped up in some of the games that I've seen, just his overall laning phase. Jolly, we even saw how powerful Array was when he was at the Gateway Legends Collegiate Invitational for St. Thomas University.
Right. And that was, I mean, an exceptional showing, almost taking down Winthrop, the previous C-Lol champions, just barely not making it into the grand finals for that tournament. But also, you know, considering Wixie and Array's playstyles and the champions that they pick, Wixie tends to play more for the late game. You've got the things like the Kog'Maw, you've got the things like the Varus as well coming through. So a lot of late game utility, but also really good positioning. And Array is a little bit more niche. A little, you know, when I think of like a Kai'Sa player, I think of Array. The Kai'Sa, we'd like to see a little bit more utility, a little bit more late game. So we've seen some of the Aphelios kind of come out, but a little bit more consistency, I think, in utility for this lane will really, really help Array and Resolve out in the bottom side.
Yeah, because it's something that has kind of plagued Resolve in the past, but you know, with the improvements that they've shown over the entire summer split. We'll have to see if it comes to fruition for Resolve, because they need to 2-0 this series if they want to keep their playoff streams alive. There's no other way around it. But I believe that it is time for us to start throwing over to TJ and Cubby, who will be breaking down our first series of the day.
Thank you very much, Rafa, and welcome to the casting desk, where I've just learned that my co-caster Cubby is freakishly flexible. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. You know, you got to stretch out the back, the shoulders before we're standing up for, what we expect. Am I doing it on camera? Are we just gonna full send it?
Yes.
Like this? Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's the golf skills right there. Yeah. As we got to stretch on out.
Our first day here in our second phase of groups, and it is Resolve taking on Cloud9 Amateur Covey. I'm super excited.
It's the rubber match between these two teams, as this is our third Proving Grounds tournament, and these two teams have history. The first one we had, Challengers Uprising, in the quarterfinals. Resolve 3-1 C9 AM to knock them out. Risen, C9 got their revenge. They 3-0'd Resolve in the quarters to knock them out. And now C9 had the chance to do so yet again, as a win here would doom Resolve from getting out of groups and into the group stage, which is important for seeding when it comes to our Tier 1.
Yeah, so very big game, and not just for the mechanical reasons. Obviously, it does have that impact on the standings, where if Resolve don't take a 2-0 here, then their odds of getting out of groups are pretty much nil. If they do get this 2-0, if they do take down Cloud9 here, then it is possible the rest of the group kind of needs to go their way. But also, Resolve have had a little bit of a bad break recently. This is a team that hasn't looked in-game as good as they do on paper. So a win here would be massive to kind of turning around their fortunes.
And this isn't a slump coming from us as casters, right? We're not saying like, oh, this team's slumping. This is something that Resolve are saying themselves. They recognize that they haven't played up to the level that they expect, sitting 0-2 in this group, dropping to OQ. For a team that 2-0 TL in Proving Grounds, at least the core, right? The only change is that Array's in for Gorka this time around. They haven't been playing to the level they feel like, but talking with Winter, talking with the team, they had a sit-down after their loss on Tuesday. They feel like they've been able to sort some things out. They've had a better week of practice, and they're hoping that it's enough to bring them over the edge against C9, as, of course, these two teams have history. And on C9's side, they've been hot so far this year.
I want to flag something about our champion selector, as we have gotten through the first ban phase. Every game so far in the tournament, there has been a very specific ban against APA. Well, 2 to be exact. One of those bans we did get, that is a Lucian ban away, but Karma did get through. And I'm very curious, given that it's been perma-banned against APA, given how good he is on the character, but also how diverse his pool is, what we're going to see APA pull out here as we head into our second phase of picks here.
And getting started with this draft, XU, Diane has been a big pick for him, so that's actually a little bit of a denial coming out. But importantly, Graves on this patch got 2 more AD, and XU has been playing Graves even before the buffs. This is something that he feels extremely comfortable on, so already matching some of that magic damage and physical damage with one of the side laners and a jungler. I'm curious to see how they round it out here, as Aphelios, that's the hover that would be a good answer into Callista. Thresh isn't available for the pairing, but you still have Leona and Nautilus or Braum that bring the CC, can bring the peel to make that pick work.
One of the things we were talking about for Resolve was how we wanted to see them play towards the top side of the map, get something safe for Array, get something for Array that is going to be impactful kind of no matter what. And I'm excited to see a Callista for that. It gives a little bit of safety to Array. It gives Array a little bit of just scheduled teamfight power, regardless of what happens in lane. And on the opposite side, we have a Set. Presumably going up into that top lane, obviously could be flexed around. But if that is the case, then I think I'm very excited by what PCL is promising. I think this draft so far plays to Resolve's strengths.
It's something that specifically Rebel Fox was talking about, right? Giving Resolve that path to victory, giving Resolve a place that they can pressure the lanes, because that's been the big thing about these two junglers, is that XU, I think XU's had a very good split and has benefited from the patch changes, the fact that it's not a full clear meta. It allows him to play things like Lee Sin, like Graves, like champions even like Rek'Sai, where you can 3-camp gank. and you have more options with pathing where XU is a little bit stronger, whereas in the full clear meta, Fnatic, with his mechanics, was outplaying people, winning the Hecarim Udyr matchup whenever he got his hands on Hecarim. And he hasn't struggled in this meta, but it just feels like the team really hasn't been playing together. And as we continue through the draft, C9, of course, we're taking away some supports and protecting a Nautilus pick, which they wanted, but that will be responded by Winter's Alistar and paired up with a Kalista if they choose to lock in an Orianna. APA's yet to play Orianna this split, but it was one of his best champions the last split of Proving Grounds, and that is going to be the lock-in. So a lot of Orianna combos for Resolve. I like this draft for them. They have a lot of ways to pressure Aphelios.
Yeah, this is a really classic Resolve draft. They're so good in the team fighting phase, and they've kind of built for that. If you've been watching LCS this split, this is kind of a Dignitas draft. They've got a very, very strong jungler, and they have a very good scaling team fight. So, you build a draft that doesn't need to win in lane, but can be boosted by the presence of that Diana. Once you get towards the teamfight phase, you have the ball delivery system in the form of the Alistar, and the Fate's Call as an extra tool to get that Alistar in gauges.
Okay, so what I want to see right off the bat as we wrap up the draft is going to be a Galio for Captain Shrimps, something that we haven't seen as much mid, but is a specialty pick for Captain Shrimps as he keeps on surprising us with his champion pool. Galio Graves, really strong mid-jungle duo, so I think C9 wants to play through XU, get Graves ahead, get him fed, whereas the side of Resolve, I want to see them get a TP advantage top so they can set up a bot play, because Kalista Alistar, you can attack bot like no one else, and it's an immobile Aphelios, so if you get that TP advantage for PCL, you can overload bot really easily. Set loves to flank. He loves to get behind their opponents. And Resolve will have to play this game out a little bit quicker as Gwen does win in the side lane.
Gwen does win in the side lane. She also is a little bit of an insurance policy for Cloud9, because if we go late, as Resolve typically want to, then Cloud9 are going to have the Gwen kind of coming online. They're going to have the teamfight power of a composition that has Aphelios Nautilus as their bottom lane, with a Galio to be that kind of secondary support, secondary source of CC. I think we've got a banger on our hands. Both these teams pointing towards a very spicy mid-game, Covey, as we do get into it between Resolve and Cloud9.
Going to get the panoramic as we dive into our first game of the day from our lovely production and observer staff behind us at EGL. As it's been fun being a part of the team so far, TJ, and fun getting on the cast for this one as we have a decider of the group. Resolve need the 2-0 once again to keep their group hopes alive for making it to the playoff stage.
And also, as you quite cleverly pointed out, this is kind of the third game in the best of 3 matches this season between Resolve and Cloud9 Amateur. Resolve taking game number 1 during Challengers Uprising, 3-1 their victory. Cloud9 Amateur blowing through Resolve in the quarterfinals of the Risen tournament. Earlier in these Proving Grounds, 3-0. Here we go, it's all on the line.
And something interesting that we're going to see right off the bat. So you see APA in the mid lane, starting off with the Mana Crystal. This is something that LS has been pioneering a little bit with Maxwelda and Viger V2. The Futures Market Orianna buy, where you can utilize that rune to back early, get a Lost Chapter guaranteed, pretty much. I believe it's on 4th or 5th wave. And then from there, that's a huge power spike for your laning phase in the mid lane. So I want to see if APA is able to execute that cleanly, as of course the Mana Crystal. A little bit of a weaker initial lane phase, but against Galio that should not be a problem, as both junglers actually starting on the bot side, trying to play towards top early, TJ. So we'll see if Fnatic can utilize that gank assist from the set to try and get an early advantage onto Gwen. Should be skipping over Krugs here to try and keep up with Graves and match that clear speed, where Graves on this patch, if done cleanly, I know if you start on red buff, you can finish your clear at 3:15. We're going to have to see how quick XU can make the full clear starting on his blue buff.
It's interesting to see both teams kind of pointing that way as well, because... Ooh, that's a sneaky ward. Because we were talking about how Resolve so clearly want to play towards their top side. And on the flip side, you have Cloud9 Amateur, where you called Wixie the best AD carry in Proving Grounds this season.
So, the best prospect in Proving Grounds as
he's getting
Arrow...
wiggly with his words!
I mean,
He's
Arrow's
spinning
pretty
them.
good, man. If you've seen Arrow play, and Arrow did get the best of Wixie in that best of 5 in Risen, where Wildcard Red did take a 3-2. But Wixie's looked fantastic with Breezy, and I think one of the reasons that C9 has had so much success is that in order to compete with a team like Wildcard, your bot lane has to be on point going up against Arrow and Daption and C9. One of the few bot lanes that can actually contend and compete with them that I've seen so far in Proving Grounds. So let's see if Wixie and Breezy can step up, as it is a Kalista lane, but Aphelios does a very good job of controlling Kalista with the right guns. Speaking of control, APA's in trouble.
Yeah, Taunt, an early visit from XU. APA's just dead. Very cleanly done. There's that early gank we promised from XU. A master of getting out of the jungle early on.
And that breaks the futures market potential buy from APA. He's going to have to just get a tier, burn that TP to get back. Fortunately for APA, was smart enough not to burn the flash there, as he was going down, as both flashes committed from Captain Shrimps and XU. And we talked about the power of Galio Graves. Good to see C9 playing towards that early.
Yeah, check out that engage from Captain Shrimps. Just very clean. There's no possible way that APA survives that. A perfect mid-jungle duo play, and a perfect punish from Captain Shrimps as APA steps just the tiniest bit too far forward.
Oh, Ghost popped here for Speedo. He might be going for this.
Haymaker spent. Speedo has to back away. Set's tricky like that. Always got a little bit extra left in the tank. Fnatic does roam up here, which is probably why Speedo was forcing that fight, aware that Fnatic was likely on his way. And so the timing works out quite well. Speedo's able to back, Fnatic wastes his time. PCL will grab that lane, and 2 TPs come through. Fnatic is actually still up here, which will prompt him to step out of the bush, but Speedo's already got a ward in it, lighting it up like a spotlight, so nothing happens up here in our top lane.
And Fnatic has nothing to do on the map at the moment, as XU got the early base with the early kill, or hasn't based yet with the early kill, though was able to deny the Krugs, as Fnatic, of course, was pathing. Bot to top will now be relegated to the Raptors. The good news for Fnatic is that he didn't initially take the Krugs, so the fact that XU cycled out is actually not the worst thing in the world for Diana, because the second creep spawns do give a significant more amount of XP. So if Fnatic's able to cycle back and benefit from that, it's not all bad. But it seems like Fnatic is actually switching up his pathing potentially, as he's not going towards the Wolves. He is actually racing towards this bot lane, trying to protect Array and Winter as they're trying to crash this one.
You know, maybe instigate something for the team down bottom instead.
Does he stay there?
There's a ward in the bush just ahead of him, and I don't know if this is communicated. Yeah. No sneaky play to happen. Will be a reset. This Drake is up, and I want to highlight that copy, because the bottom lane is very decisive towards who will get control of that first Drake in the game. As Array's back will be cancelled, so it does look like Cloud9 do have control of this Drake as people start positioning around him.
This should be XU starting it right away, as Winter did base. And once again, Winter has nothing to do on the map at the moment, just going to walk top to potentially protect or go for a play onto Speedo, as they know they can't contest the Dragon due to their base timers. And this will be a free first Dragon going over to C9.
And Array doesn't even get to back. He's still stuck in lane. So, really, really well played. Winter did get to reset. He's now here in the river, and he's found a nice stun up against Speedo. This could get dangerous. Here is Fnatic, and there's that early game impact that we were looking for from Resolve. They're going to tie things up in the kill feed, 1-1.
Really good play from Resolve, as Winter recognized he couldn't do anything on the bot side, but once again, Array, because he hasn't based yet, because he was stuck in that lane and now doesn't have his support to help him, this could be a potential play coming down from C9. I'd love to see if they attempt this dive.
Cloud9 in the area. Array on the Kalista is just a little bit too scary, I think. Early game Kalista. Let's take another look at this, as Winter just found a very good opportunity, and this was one of your criticisms, because when Winter is playing incredibly well, when Winter is the defining force of this Resolve team, it is him finding engages. So it's very good to see him do that.
Winter oftentimes takes up the mantle of the main engage for Resolve, and Resolve relies a lot on their team fight. And Winter, in the last split, I think, was a very underrated piece. It took so many fantastic winning fights and started the party off on such a good foot for Resolve and so many other wins. But with Resolve's recent slump, I think Winter hasn't found all the right engages, but that was a beautiful play from him. Just understanding the fact that they couldn't do anything on the bot side. That Dragon was going over to C9, so look for a response somewhere else on the map, able to catch out Speedo in the river and find a positive play for Resolve while they're at a deficit.
It's exactly the kind of play that makes Resolve a scary team when they're at their best, made Barrage, the kind of predecessor to this roster, one of the best teams in Proving Grounds during last season. Let's, if you don't mind, Cubby, kind of address this top lane, because we put an awful lot of emphasis on it. PCL, one of the stars over there on Resolve. And Speedo has won this lane kind of on paper, then gone shut down just now in the river. How's it going?
The big thing for Gwen is that over time, she starts to really outscale Set, who has early control over the lane because of the clap going up against a melee, right? You can just step up into the wave, press C, get the stun off, and find a positive trade for yourself. But over time, once Gwen gets some more items, more points in that queue, Scissors get a little bit stronger, and Set starts to struggle to deal with that. So the fact that PCL has managed the lane and has it at this state, I'd say ultimately Speedo's done an okay job besides giving up that kill, and that's been something that's been very common for C9, as Speedo, or used to go by Lawrence, has really started to establish himself as someone that is also a good piece for this roster. I think that he was one of the weaker points that C9 had in the last split of Proving Grounds, where they failed to qualify for the big event, or for the Tier 1s, I believe. That said, I think that in the off time, Speedo has really stepped up his game and become an essential piece to the success of C9, and one of the reasons that they have topped both groups and just took second in Risen, the last Proving Grounds tournament.
So let's check in, as we do have a pretty even game state right now. Cloud9 did just get the first Drake of the game a couple of moments ago, and now they're poised to use the Rift Herald they picked up as well, try and earn out an advantage. Because again, Cloud9 are staring down the barrel of Resolve's mid-game, which are these really scary teamfights that are unequivocally their strength when they can get there. So they'd like to do a little bit more damage during these first 15 minutes.
And I think that's why they're trying to focus so much on Speedo, TJ, because if they avoid the team fights, if they can just buy time for XU to clear a little bit faster on this Graves, for Speedo to keep on hitting levels, getting items to start winning side lanes against both Orianna and Set, they can try and utilize that strength on the Gwen to avoid the team fights, where Shrimps and XU are just trying to look for skirmishes. Yes, Nautilus and Felios can team fight, but going up against an Orianna, Set, Diana, this is a dog pile composition from Resolve, and that's one way that C9 can play around it. Get the Gwen strong. Get her to stretch out the map and prevent Resolve from getting those free 5-man stacks where you use often in the team fights.
I don't know if it was just the perspective or a glitch, but I just saw a ward vanish, and the Breezy killed an invisible ward. It was terrifying, and I completely lost track of what you were talking about, Cubby.
Plus 30, baby. That's all that counts.
He did get the gold. I watched it. So, map control resets kind of down the river. No early aggression out from Resolve here. They're still waiting on that team fighting, as we talked about, as we set up now for the Drake.
And this Drake could be a point of tension for C9. I'm curious to see if they're going to be able to manipulate their lane states to get a favorable Dragon take for them. As I know that there is no mythic item completed for Diana, for Orianna, for anyone over on the side of Resolve. That might be enough to prevent them from trying to contest this, but this is the strength of their composition. As APA is wrapping around, the Dragon has been pulled and Resolve. They are going to back off, so they're waiting to get at least one item down before they start to contest C9. As Galvio Graves is a very strong combo at this point of the game, especially because XU is the only member that has completed Mythic so far with that Eclipse on the Graves. So trying to avoid that lethality, avoid that spike at the moment. I do like the decision from Resolve, and they're continuing to try and lose gracefully before they can get their items online.
Yeah, you're still looking at around that 15-minute mark when everyone has their Mythic up, and that's when Resolve can start leaving their lanes, grouping as 5, looking for the objective team fights. Interesting note about that, obviously when you have the Rift Herald, quite often you throw it down in a lane to draw priority so you can get a Drake. Because Resolve didn't challenge for the Drake, Cloud9 didn't have to do that, so they just spend the Rift Herald later. Actually gets a couple of bonus plates, a little bit extra gold in his pocket.
Yeah, and XU's done a fantastic job of accelerating himself ahead against the Diana. Graves clears very quickly, especially at this point of the game. And XU's been really focusing on funneling himself as PCL. Oh, burns flash. Here we go.
Fnatic in for the Moonfall. Here's a heroic entrance over the top. PCL buffers it, trying to stall through the damage with a Haymaker, but he is gone. And this is disastrous for Resolve. APA is caught out as well, knocked up by the depth charts down bottom. XU's just chewing away at his HP. APA is gone. XU puts the bullet points at the bottom of that play as Cloud9 take 2 more kills in the top side.
Fnatic and PCL were not in sync there. PCL RKO'd Gwen out of the Moonfall, and Captain Shrimps was able to respond, but also XU, that flash to get over the wall, to dodge out on the Shockwave, that's what made the play a 2-for-1. A good response from C9, and a little bit of over-aggression from Resolve.
Yeah, very, very kind of questionable on the engage, because there's just no way Fnatic gets in range of the Facebreaker before Speedo can move again. So Speedo is either, that's why the RKO is, it comes out a little bit weird, because there's no way Fnatic's Moonfall gets there in time. Fnatic does an excellent job of traveling this distance. The PCL doesn't get the stun. Very awkward as a fight.
Yeah, he casted it, but the RKO brought him out of the damage part. And then watch this flash from XU, because the Shockwave's coming down. And he just says, nope, get right over that, dashes over the wall.
Clean
Beautiful
Covey.
movement on the Graves.
That's clean, Covey.
Really good play, yeah. As
XU
he gets to return on the map.
Actually, one of the players who's been kind of developing through this system, formerly a collegiate player, and he's made some great strides, Cubby, from going as an over-aggressive kind of mechanical god collegiate player, there aren't many of them, to now a formidable part of this Cloud9 machine that has built itself over the course of the last season.
And actually talking with Wixie before this game, so this roster has gone through no changes, and fun fact, all 5 of these players actually played collegiate at one point. The core, Wixie, Tails, JJ, and Speedo all came from Harrisburg, but Captain Shrimps played for Waterloo, XU was on UC Berkeley, as you were referencing, and even Breezy, before he was on 100 Thieves Academy, played for Arizona State, who actually just top 4 in Gateway Legends, if anyone caught that. But one of the big changes he said, the only change they've made is they added Mist to the coaching staff. Mist was a player that took top 6 in Proving Grounds with EGP as a support, and he said, Wixie said that Mist's opinions in reviews and our team dynamics helped a ton. Just having that new point of view, he's pointed out a lot of things that they didn't really see as they were stuck in the weeds with their team, and he gave a lot of credit to Mist with their improvement from spring to summer. Speaking of improvement, Speedo, another player, gonna have to try and go for PCL.
He's fine. PCL may not be fine for long, because there is a flank here. Rift Herald did just get picked up. It just got dropped in the top side of the map. That's going to be PCL in huge trouble now. Rift Herald summoned. PCL pulled in. Good Haymaker, but he's just dead. And so is this turret up top. That's going to be the first turret break of the game. Over to Cloud9. Down bottom. Actually, I don't know which happened first. Down bottom.
C9
it was a
got the
shove
first
through
one.
from
Close.
Resolve. Cloud9 got it? Okay. It was very close.
That's the one time we really needed a voice announcer, you know? She said first break. That's how I knew.
Thanks. What's her name?
I don't know, but...
Melissa. Thanks, Melissa.
When in doubt, think quick, right? That's what we're going with here. As we do have a full reset and 15 seconds away from Ocean Dragon spawning. And because Resolve are able to reset first, they are at a 3k gold deficit, TJ. But this is the strength of their comp. They have the first mythics, and I'm curious to see if they look for a fight here, as they really have to worry about XU. 160 farm and a Serpent's Fang on this Lethality Graves. A lot of shields for Resolve. They have shields on 3 of their members, and that's going to help XU try and rip through the members as we have a setup coming.
Yeah, they're split.
Recombo.
Cloud9 are split, but this works out well for them because each of their individual players are stronger. As long as there's not a full turn, which there is here. Speedo caught out. Speedo burned down. 1v5. Shrimps goes in. Huge shockwave slows things down. APA finding massive value, and Winters got the bouncy house activated as Array chews through the back half of the team fight. Cloud9 have done massive damage. Winter may eventually will go down at the very top of the fight. Here's APA trying to turn things around, but XU just demolishes him. And Array with the hop away over the wall. He's gone as well. Resolve, that is a valiant effort But Cloud9 come out on top, keep their carries safe in XU and Wixie, and that's going to earn them the team fight and their third dragon.
And this is a good start to the fight from Resolve. I love how they just isolate Speedo. They drop a stopwatch to dodge out on the knockup from Galio, but Wixie over the walls, the big difference maker. No one can touch him, and he has Infernum doing so much damage, and he sees the right opportunity. Flash Gale forces to take down 2 members, and then XU on the back half. Keep in mind, he's the member that we're talking about that's just 2 fed already to start this game. And oh my gosh, APA just evaporates on the map here from XU. That's an auto queue, baby.
Did such a good job at the start of this fight. The whole APA Winter combo is exactly what Resolve built their bread and butter around. So to execute that perfectly and then realize, hey, we didn't kill XU, we didn't kill Wixie, this fight is just not going our way, is heartbreaking for Resolve.
I like how there, once again, as you called out, TJ, there was an isolated member in Speedo. Speaking of isolated members, Breezy.
Now Fnatic in for a little bit of revenge. The Moonfall will connect, but Breezy finds the hook, knocked away by Winter. Here comes the TP, and Breezy once back in. Winter's nailed to the floor. Winter should be dead. He'll pop the ult for stalling. Wixie is decently low, but here comes XU round the side as PCL tries to take to the front lines. Wixie's going to isolate that. Facebreaker, Haymaker, Wixie's dead! A 1-for-1 trade, but it's not over yet because APA's been found round the side. Winter dead as well. The Speedo, who's just been chewing up the bottom half of this fight. And so Wixie dies, but at the end of the day, it's 1 for 3 as the remainder goes over to Speedo. Late game Gwen, late game Graves, they're here and they're scary.
And for Resolve, they're behind. They have to fight. They have to try and get shutdowns, and I appreciate the thought, right? They're going after Wixie and Breezy. They're trying to weigh a trap. They don't have flashes up on either of those characters, but the TP from Shrimps comes in, it saves it, and they have to find fights where XU isn't. He's way too fed at this point of the game, TJ, and once XU and C9 buy enough time to get XU to the fight, that's when Resolve drop is Shrimps in the side lane, doesn't have any sums.
All alone, Fate's call will get Winter right onto Captain Shrimps. He's a Galio, though, which means it's going to take a while here. They should get this kill just through the power of Callista, but as Array shoots away, the rest of the map is C9's to run. They'll get some damage down bottom, not much else. A positive trade for Resolve overall. Very well played.
Here's a second look. Once again, it's a 3v2. They're able to at least try to get in range, but the big difference is the fact that Winter could never get in range to combo him. The full combo never comes down onto Aphelios, and they just overextend trying to fish for the shutdown. They do get it in the end, but XU in the back half just one-shots the rest. And speaking of one-shots, goodbye PCL.
You'll be missed. Oh dear, though. Whilst that's happening at the bottom side of the map, the rest of Resolve are busy all up top, starting this Baron. This is the right Hail Mary to throw, but Speedo's about to sniff it out. Here comes Speedo. He's got vision, 3,000 HP left. Wixie over the wall, misses the Moonlit Vigil. 1,000 HP, Baron will go over to Resolve, but they've instantly lost 3 players. That is disgusting. Goodbye, Resolve. It's only Fnatic left. He's able to back with the Baron buff. But Cloud9 all but ace them inside the pit.
I respect it from Resolve. They C4, they instantly turn, but it's not enough in the end, right? XU, way too fed, and the fact that Fnatic was able to sneak out. The good things for Resolve, they take Baron off the map. If Baron went over to C9, that's most certainly doomed for them. Taking the Baron does buy themselves some time, but TJ, they're still in trouble because it's Soul Point for C9, and it's Ocean Soul on the Rift, so Resolve have to regroup, find another fight fast before this game goes haywire for them, and the first game goes over to C9.
And also, they've just bought time into a snowballing Gwen. So, I'm not convinced you're buying... I'm not convinced it's a worthwhile investment. Let's put it that way. Because the Gwen is...
I'm not either.
Just getting scarier over time. Eventually.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, once again, I respect it from Resolve. They're down 5k gold. They see 4 bot. They're like, you know what? This may be the best chance that we have to win the game from here. So at least they have the brains and the guts to go for it. But it doesn't mean they're not doomed, because we're 40 seconds out from Ocean Soul for C9. It's a 7k gold deficit for Resolve. And we've already seen the fights where they get the dream combo between Orianna, Set, Alistar, and it's just not enough to overcome XU and C9, as XU is level 15 on this Graves. Full lethality build, even has a Guardian Angel for this fight, so killing him twice, I don't even think Resolve can kill him once.
No, I agree with you there. He's a very, very scary old man right now. And Resolve are trapped in his beard, 10 seconds away from this Drake. Resolve on the flank have left their backlines exposed. It's PCL again, caught out again, dead early. Some ult spent for it, but it just doesn't matter. Fnatic's gone as well. APA finds a decent shockwave, but he's not doing damage anymore. That may be the game. Cloud9 clean up Resolve, and Ace, they'll turn towards the Ocean Soul. I don't think they can end this instant, but they can certainly start putting nails in this coffin.
And as you called out, TJ, against this comp, if you're C9, you want to be split. And the fact that they controlled the priority, controlled the vision, and found a split fight for themselves means that with this gold lead, it's game over for Resolve. And I know that, once again, talking with Wixie beforehand, he said that loss to TSM, that's how they started off their group. He said, we were getting a little bit cocky, right? We won Risen, or we took second in Risen. That's the best we've ever done. We got a little bit ahead of ourselves. That loss, it woke us up. We are not going to drop a series again going up against Resolve, a team they respect, but they feel like they're playing much better after that wake-up call. And man, what a performance they put on in this game one of this series, TJ.
This is a clinic. This is exactly what we've come to expect from good Cloud9 amateur performances, where they demonstrate that this is a team that plays as such very coordinated in fights, very understanding of what their opponents are doing on the map. Resolve have made some very good macro map calls this game, but they have never been able to get one past Cloud9, who are playing a very good vision game, who in that fight realized that there's probably people working the map around the river and come in behind them, cutting off inside the jungle. Here's Resolve with the last-ditch effort, the full murder push. Speedo knocked low.
Wixie.
Speedo stays alive through it all. It doesn't matter. Fnatic's gone. It might be one back as finally PCL's able to get some vengeance, but that's going to be all. APA, Fnatic, PCL dead. Winter and Array at the bot lane. Very, very low as Cloud9 come for their Nexus. Here's the bot lane, or the mid lane, opened up. Array and Winter will have a chance to defend here. 2v4.
No chance. As XU, C9, they're wrapping it up. Array and Winter, I think they're ready to go to the next one as, man, C9 led by XU, TJ. What a game one from the young jungler of Cloud9 Amateur. 11-0-11 on this Graves. Putting his stamp on the map from the first gank till the end of the game. The full lethality Graves paid off tenfold.
Yeah, really, really impressive performance by Cloud9 Amateur. I talked about their map play. We also, of course, talked about the individual play of XU. I want to give another shout out to how well, kind of the middle ground, how well XU and Captain Shrimps work together is a mid-jungle duo playing the map. They had some very good map awareness that played very well with the mechanical plays that XU was pulling off.
It was great to see. I mean, overall, C9, you mentioned it. It was a clinic, a clean game from them, something that they wanted to do after they dropped that first set versus TSM AM. A close one, I will say, but they don't want to make this one close as they take down Resolve, and Resolve, they had some moments. I could see the setup from them, but overall, I just got a little bit too far behind early. Couldn't quite put all the pieces together and drop to a very solid C9 in that game.
Man, I believed in some of those team fights, though. The APA Winter combo, I saw it for an instant.
Yep.
For a glimmer. That's all from us. We're going to head towards a break. There is a desk. There is another game. This is a best-of-3 series, and there's still time for Resolve to turn this round. We'll be right back with that right after this.
Gamers, did you put your sunscreen on before that match? Because if you didn't, you might be getting some third-degree burns from how disgusting EXU's performance on that Graves was in that first game. And I believe with that win, Rebel Fox, I'm going to need you to clarify for me and the rest of the audience here. Does this mean that even if Resolve were to 2-1, they are technically out of playoffs at this point?
This is a question that I'm contemplating at the moment, only because if Resolve ends up at 2-1, and they end up beating Cloud9 even at this point. Cloud9's already taken a game, and their game score is going to be superior when it comes to map score. But the head-to-head will go to Resolve. So it's a dependency on, is game score, map score more important, or is head-to-head more important? I think in ultimate situation, head-to-head ends up being more important. And so Cloud9 might still drop. So from this point, Resolve cannot lose a single game. They might already be out, depending on if map score is more important. I don't want to sit here and say that they have a bunch of hope, but obviously I don't think Resolve is going to want to drop out in this series whatsoever, because there's still, I guess, a chance far off in the distance that maybe that light is still up there.
Right. It is definitely a question that kind of everyone would like to know. And so, as of now, we're going to assume that, especially with the way Cloud9 Amateur are playing right now, unless Resolve are able to kind of buckle down and then just, for the sake of being able to show that they have what it takes to be able to compete with one of the stronger teams in Proving Grounds right now and show kind of glimpses of their form that a majority of this roster had back in spring and Barrage. And John, we got to talk about EXU. I already kind of let the audience know that, he's kind of on fire, but if we can bring up his endgame stats along with Captain Trince there, this man, 256 CS at the 24-minute mark. Like, what? What is that?
Yeah, it's absurd. And that's actually kind of something we were talking about, is you had a little bit of sharing as well. Captain Shrimp's low on the creep, because you could see that Graves was just able to come through. XU clean up all of that creep as well as the jungle. If you've already got XU kicking off on, I got to say, his primary champion, the one he generally tries to pick, a comfort pick for sure for this player, you let him get something. He went with the Dark Harvest first off, so he had confidence going into this one, and then followed it up with the Eclipse build. Was able to get a Serpent's Fang and an Eclipse pre-60 or pre-15 minutes in the game. Just absolute insanity. So that's definitely going to be something that Resolve needs to focus on, shutting down XU, and Fnatic certainly has to try to play a part in that.
EXU, when me and Kari first knew him back in 2019, we just knew him for Lee Sin and the occasional Nidalee. But now, like you said, in a meta where, junglers like Lee Sin are over-prioritized and they're being taken, or they have a high presence rate and they're being either taken off the table before they are being secured or taken away, like you said, Jolly, that Graves has been one of this player's few comfort picks. It probably his go-to, and I think it's surprising because I don't think there's any other jungler that has really shown an incentive or a priority for Graves like Lawrence has in this entire summer split. But God, he made it work, and this is a champion that in the past has not been able to do so well since of prior nerfs, but I want to, look forward into this game too for Cloud9 Amateur to see if we can, if that Graves is going to be warranting necessarily a ban, because I don't know if that is the case here, Rebel, if it's just more so the playstyle that he and Shrimps have been able to, lock down for Cloud9.
It's an interesting thought coming into this one, because now, of course, Resolve, they've decided to elect for red side, having lost that previous game. So when we get into draft, we're going to see at least a little bit of difference. And now being there, maybe they have the flexibility to take the Graves off. It was pretty clear that the combination of the Graves with something very powerful in mid lane, especially something CC heavy like the Galio, that if you give that champion over, that's clearly a play style that Captain Shrimps is willing to play towards, because of the sacrifice. You saw from the graphic a bit ago just how much of that CS had bled through from Captain Shrimps into the pockets of the carry in XU, so there's at least a commitment to taking that mid jungle. So I think even if you let it through, you still have to figure out a way to combat that mid jungle position if you're on the side of Resolve, because that's what broke down for you in really heavy, just pretty much the entire game, as what cost you a fair amount of your early mid presence that let you kind of get to these fights but not really have the backing necessary to take them. So ban it, if you want, if you think that XU is going to pop off on it, or if you're not concerned, or if you're concerned you don't have a response. But definitely control of that mid jungle is all that's going to be necessary. One way or another, that's got to happen.
And before we jump into this draft select, I want to kind of throw it to you, Jolly, just for a few thoughts. Even though if Resolve were to come back in this series, and if it doesn't affect their overall chances into going into playoffs because of head-to-head, what do you want to see from Resolve that you felt like you didn't get to see too much in Game 1?
I liked their composition. I liked what they were going for. I liked the idea behind the Callista. I just wish there was a little bit more focus as soon as, like Rebel mentioned, that mid lane jungle was taken over by XU. Fnatic likely should have roamed down to the bottom side. So maybe a little bit more focus on the bottom side from the jungle might help them out in the early game.
All right, well, let's see if Resolve takes to heart a little bit of that Game 1 in stride and making some improvements or making some changes as we get ready for the second game of the series, potentially the last one if Cloud9 closes out, or we can go to a Game 3 of Resolve come back swinging. But TJ and Cubby, they're going to be the ones guiding you through this next game.
Thank you very much, Rafa. I'm uncomfortable with the idea of me guiding anyone through anything, so I'm going to turn things over to you, Cubby. Just to kind of lay things out, game number 1 looks very good for Cloud9 Amateur. We also saw Resolve fall a little bit short in just a couple specific instances from their kind of ideal play style. Can you talk us through maybe the cracks we saw in Resolve that they'd want to tighten up before game 2?
Yeah, I think the fact that Orianna wasn't able to get a clean first reset and get that lost chapter hurt them in the long run. I credit C9 for making that proactive play, burning both flashes to make sure that didn't happen mid. But after that, the next real big point of tension that we saw was Fnatic and PCL trying to go for plays in the top side, trying to attack that Gwen with the set Diana. And credit to Speedo, he was able to get out of it, but also not really in sync with a couple of those ganks. I mean, the RKO out of the Moonfall from Set, that's not something that we're used to seeing from Resolve, and a couple of those misplays ended up costing them pretty big and costed them the game in the end, as C9 played out that game very well.
But it is a good sign for any League of Legends match when we're able to attribute the game to things that specific. Because yes, Cloud9 were in control of the game from top to bottom, but no, Resolve didn't make any drastic mistakes. There were a couple of mechanical errors, a couple of minor misreads of map positioning, and Cloud9 were able to punish them very effectively. And that's what gets us here.
I credit most of the game to really good play from XU and Wixie. I thought that both players were fantastic. The Aphelios into the Callista, it's an answer that we're seeing quite a bit of, especially on the LCS stage, but a lot of people don't really understand or realize what the answer is, and it's just that if you have the right guns, you can control Callista. You outrange her with green, white, red, white, she can't jump in. And if you have Graviton, then you can just stun her and, have her rooted and chain stun things from there. So I thought that Wixie put that out really well. That was one of the big differences in that game. But going into this second one, big adaptation coming out is that we have a side swap and no Graves for XU.
Yes, so we are heading into our second ban phase. It is important to note that Graves is gone. It is important to note that both Lucian and Karma are on the table, both picks that APA has been rolling with last game. They put him on an Orianna, which used to be one of APA's favorite picks. APA looked very good on the Orianna, hitting some really good ultimates, but wasn't able to have the impact that you want from that character due to an early gank, due to how well C9 played that mid-jungle duo. So we'll see what gets locked in here towards APA and towards the opposite half of that mid-jungle duo. As it looks like we're getting the Viego I was excited for, something Fnatic's been playing a decent amount of. And we're going to get the thing I was hyping up during the first draft, a Karma, presumably going into APA's hands.
This can be flexed with Winter, but as you mentioned, we expect this to be in the hands of APA, as his Karma, fantastic Karma. He is, I believe, 3-0 on Karma, at least before EGL. And for EGL, I'd have to try and pull some stats, as my stats
he hasn't played it. He's been banned every game.
Okay, he hasn't played it.
I was looking at the pick bans. I was looking at the pick bans, and literally everyone has banned Karma against him. He hasn't gotten a game on it here at this event.
Now, that said, getting the Karma for Resolve, good for them, good for their team identity, how they've played historically. But giving up Diana, Renekton, and Lucian, this is two powerful solo laners that you can pair up with Diana that she can play towards. Lucian gives her priority. Renekton gives her a lane to attack. But that said, Renekton, one of the matchups that he actually surprisingly doesn't do as well into is actually the Jace. So it looks like it's going to be a Jace for PCL in the top lane, trying to answer the Renekton of speed.
I'm feeling dangerous because I really, really liked Resolve's draft last game, and then Cloud9 were just able to match them in the macro, able to shut down their early game with the jungle presence of Xu. So, whilst I'm looking at this draft right now and going, I'm actually quite liking all of this for Resolve, I think it will come down to what Cloud9 get for their all-star bottom lane, which is, of course, what's being decided here in this ban phase, because that determines the priority at the bottom side of the map, where we're very likely to see the early action of the game take place.
And I expect this to be an 80 pick so they can preserve that Karma flex throughout the rest of the draft for Resolve, whereas C9 just looking to power pick whatever they can. This could be the Senna, and big surprise, they have actually played Senna Karma bot with Winter farming on the Karma in the past. So this could be something that Resolve could pull out, potentially use as returning to something that Array Senna pairings going up against all these short-range champions could be very good. And C9 have to respect that as they're actually going to take the Aphelios. A lot of ADs were taken off the table, but Aphelios historically gets outranged by Senna as the game goes on. Not the greatest pick into it, but something that Wixie still feels comfortable with. Now we're going to have to see what they end up pairing it with, as it is going to be the Rakan in the end.
The Rakan Aphelios, the Rakan kind of coming out by default because we lost just about everything else. Here we go. So this is the decision for me. Assuming this is Senna AD carry, the idea that this Karma could be flexed down bottom is very intriguing, but I don't believe in it. Ooh, take it away.
It's Senna. I think it's Trundle bot. I think it's going to be a farming Trundle for Winter, as this is something that is brand spanking new coming out of Resolve, but is pretty good as the pillar. You can prevent engages from Diana, you can control the terrain around in Aphelios, and you can't get through the Trundle after the first few levels. He gets sustained off the minion waves, Senna also buffs him up, and Resolve going back to a new strategy, trying to empower the Trundle, give him the range that he needs. And I must say, TJ, I see the theory from Resolve's draft, I really like it. It's a short-range team composition for C9. And with the Karma, they have ways to engage, they have ways to outrange it, they have ways to manipulate the terrain around these fights, and I think Resolve has a lot of tools to answer what is a bread-and-butter comp for so many teams we're seeing in competitive right now with those first three picks, Renekton, Diana, and Lucian.
Yeah, I am looking at that short range over on Cloud9, and I'm thinking, okay, well, Jace, well, Karma, well, Senna. That's an awful lot of tools that can keep you at arm's length. The thing that's standing out to me is I don't see very good stoppage power. It's all going to come down to Winter to kind of stop
early. Yeah.
Hard engage coming out from Diana, Renekton, and Rakan, all of whom have fantastic access to this back line. And if C9 are able to blow up in the early game again with Xu, Resolve are never going to get to a game state where that Jace, where that Karma are serious threats in their poke. Because if you don't have the raw stats to blow people up, to be a threat with your poke, then Cloud9 can just run all over you and keep snowballing.
And for C9, yes, we do like the answers that Resolve has as the game goes on. We can see the theory of it, but early, all the priority should be in the hands of C9. They can win all three of these lanes. In the first few levels, they should have a full court press for Xu on Diana. And we're going to have to see what Xu can do with that this game, as he was so incredibly impressive last game on his Graves, returning to the Diana this game. And for C9, I think a lot of it is going to be about Diana and Breezy working together with potentially Speedo to find picks. Skirmishes for C9 are going to be very good if they can fight around that Karma.
I'm just appreciating the duck. Game 2, Cloud9 Amateur taking on Resolve. It comes down to this for Cloud9. They could leave this with a clean 2-0, which would do wonders for their current standings in the groups. After TSM handed them an L on the first day here, Cloud9 quite badly want the win. Resolve need it. If they don't get a win here, if they don't scrape it out, they are effectively eliminated immediately. Already their path is very muddy, but a 2-1 here does give them some semblance of hope.
They need help from TSM. I believe they need TSM to beat OQ 0-2 now. We'll have updates on that if we get any, as Winter Showing off the troll dance as comfortable Winter it is this game, as he is elected for a TP, a press the attack. And we're going to have to keep our eyes on that farming Trundle in the bot lane, and if Winter is able to make the impact we think he might be able to make on this pick.
Yeah, so you talked a little bit about the role of Winter as this kind of center support pick, but I want to go a little bit more broad steps for someone who hasn't been super involved with the meta recently. What's going on with Trundle? Why is he kind of stepping back into gameplay these days?
Trundle has a lot of good matchups in the jungle. We've seen Sejuani with the strong solo melee picks that we've had kind of get paired. Trundle's that traditional counter. We've also seen Olaf come back here and there, and Trundle just has the ability to control terrain so easily as a champion with that pillar. One of the most underrated abilities that we have in the game. Going up against the Diana, against a Aphelios, where if those two champions don't have flash, a pillar combined with Karma speed up, you can really attack and take advantage of those two champions. So we're going to have to keep our eyes on the flashes, keep our eyes on if Resolve can properly punish those, and keep our eyes on if Resolve can survive this early game, as we feel like it's very much in favor of C9 with the champions they have.
If Cloud9 are to win this early game, it comes from Axu, who put on an absolute clinic during game number 1 on Graves. Now he comes to the table with the Diana, and his mission statement is obvious. Gain access to Array, gain access to APA. Be that Diana backline threat, and don't allow this composition to build up their strength throughout this early mid game.
And because Breezy and Wixie had to leash, this sets up very favorably for the bot lane of Resolve. They were able to get there first, take advantage of the wave, and once Trundle gets advantage, he gets free health from any minions that die. As we do see a pillar combo miss with the stun of Array. Of course, you can use the pillar to try and manipulate more of that terrain around the knock or the stun that Senna has in her kit, as that one does connect with no help of the pillar.
That was very clean from Array. He's playing a very good Senna lane so far. Fnatic's also trying to get aggressive, punish what's going on down bottom, and Xu already half HP, burns the smite early. That was a shock blast from PCL, very nearly ending the fight just as quickly. But at the end of the day, Fnatic doesn't find much, does threaten this Grom.
I love that first three-wave plan, though, from Resolve, because the fact they get Diana's Flash, now they can punish it with Karma, with Trundle whenever they want, and this should be a double crab for Fnatic in the jungle. So getting ahead against the Diana early, good start for Resolve, a much better start for Resolve, who at this point, we're already getting blown up by Galio Graves in the mid-jungle duo.
And a direct adaptation to game number 1, where Axu was such a snowballing threat. Here at game 2, they say, we're gonna, the three-wave plan like that needs to be set up during at least the level 1 as you start to figure out what your composition is. PCL burns flash here. So the idea that they come into this game or arrive in this game already building the plan to punish Axu to go early on this invade is a very good sign for Resolve.
They do get Winter's flash there, as, Shrimps also has to flash out. He dodged out from the tether, but the fact that he had the dash wouldn't be able to get over the wall. I respect the early flash from Captain Shrimps, as that does save a lot of his HP. And now Fnatic, this is awkward.
Axu in on Fnatic inside the river here. Flash burned. Name a flash, Cubby! It's down!
Am I supposed to know, like, I thought you were going for like a DC Conics thing there? It's like, oh boy.
Oh, sure. I would have taken that answer.
Would have not been good for me either, as PCL might be going down. Oh, a tower shot,
Speedo.
though.
Does he have Shock Blast? No. Cooldowns are low. I don't know that it would have gotten the kill anyway.
Shrimps is roaming. PCL might be in trouble. He has to retreat from this wave right now. Shrimps doesn't have access to the culling, but he will have to respect this movement, save that. And APA actually walking up to drop a ward. Will drop wave priority. Shrimps should be able to catch most of it. So an effective roam from Shrimps. Doesn't lose a lot. Puts PCL a little bit further behind. So we have resets coming out.
PCL feeling in tune with the speed force there. Knowing he's got to play safe in the top lane. Knowing Captain Shrimps is on his way out. Getting the call. Sliding back.
And importantly, once again, Axu, his camps are coming back, TJ. But Fnatic has done such a good job of getting himself ahead of this Diana, who, walking into the Raptors, this is spotted. They know where Diana is at the moment, and Fnatic has yet to reset, but he's going to get a massive first reset on this Viego. Should be able to get a Phage right off the bat, maybe more, as he works towards most likely that Divine Sunder. So APA is going to eat calling. A-okay on the Karma.
Didn't taste too bad.
Yeah, we return to a very favorable state of the game for Resolve. It's good that C9 has gotten so many flashes out of them. But we're just going to have to keep our eyes on who can punish the flashes being down first.
First Drake is up down bottom here. And Resolve are making a beeline towards it. It's going to be 3 Resolve members on this Dragon. Up top, PCL and Speedo are continuing to trade. And that's bolstered by the fact that Fnatic is up here as opposed to down bottom where the Resolve members are playing around that Dragon.
Flashes are down. He didn't go for the Fade. She actually went for the Kindle Gem and the Sheen. So Fnatic is very strong. Is spotted out. They're going to ignore the ward, go for the play.
Spreading the toothpaste. Fnatic for the engage. Speedo very low. No ult yet for Fnatic, but he still gets the kill. Here's XU. 1 for 1. Fnatic still not 6. At close range. Will get the kill.
And a favorable 2v2 goes over to Resolve. We saw Fnatic and PCL struggle to sync up in the last one, but they were perfectly in sync there as they get the reset for Viego. Getting all those abilities back up is what pushes them over the edge. As we talked about punishing the flashes being down, Resolve are first to the play. They were able to take down Speedo, get the win in the end.
And Fnatic becoming the Crocodile.
They laid a trap. They're going on him again.
And just like that, because he was the Crocodile, he could think like the Crocodile. Huge shock blast. They just wait in lane. And it's another kill on to Speedo. Resolve opening up the game now 3-1. Much of that gold going into PCL's Jace. A key part of this poke composition in the mid to late game.
Oh, Breezy might
that's a
down.
big root. Yeah, Breezy, half HP. Wixie has the Crescendum Inferno, though, and that's just so scary. That's enough to stop anything more from happening.
Yeah, they have to respect the Chakrams being stacked there from the Aphelios as they do back off. And Shrimp's actually roaming down. No flash on either bot laner here, but Fnatic's here to hover once again. He has the answer.
Fnatic here, but it's a 3v4. Array in trouble. Kites back. Breezy dives in. Focused. Nailed very low. Shrimps will be slowed down, chunked away. Ultimately, still don't want to step into that as Resolve, but the defense is successful. Cloud9 waste their time down bottom.
That's such a good response from Resolve as C9. They committed so much to that play, TJ. That's 4 members being taken to the bot lane where they get absolutely nothing. It gets turned upon by Resolve. As we see the rinse and repeat, once this TP is casted, Fnatic says, I have a sneaky little idea. I think we could take Speedo down once again. They end up punishing the top laner of C9.
I love it.
As
Fnatic
returning to the map state now, TJ.
In the bush.
We talked about how important the early game was for C9, the importance of getting Diana off to a good start. That level 6 got delayed. They can't really take advantage of the Renekton Lucian as it has been properly punished in the top lane, neutralized by Karma in the mid lane. And now C9 find themselves in a tough spot as another dive coming through. APA's here.
Oh, poor Speedo. Dawning Shadow from across the map will chunk him, force him back. APA benefiting from the shielding. They zone Speedo off. Speedo played that actually very well to survive. Here comes XU roaming up as PCL will continue to chew away at the turret. XU plus Speedo. That's enough to scare PCL away. And maybe do more. APA and Fnatic are both here. APA fairly low. But XU doesn't want to get aggressive. Rift Herald is up. Drake is up. And it will be Cloud9 starting that Drake as we speak. A skirmish kind of breaking out down bottom. Winter does have vision over it. Shrimp's in trouble in mid. Needs to burn Flash to stay alive. That's okay. APA burn Flash as well. Nobody starts off this Drake despite C9 kind of posturing for it.
I actually love the roam there from Array. Understanding that once again, he's not a marksman. He's a support. He can go walk up and just let Winter leave him to his lonesome with the wave here in the bot lane, as he will have to return now as that wave will be shoving out. But overall, once again, a good game state for Resolve. They've weathered the storm. They've gotten Fnatic ahead early, and anytime Viego is going to get a reset, C9 have to be scared. And C9, it's a squishy team composition that's made even squishier by the fact that Trundle exists as, actually you might be caught.
We're back,
Nice
baby.
Dash. Really good
Welcome
dash.
back to the top lane, Speedo. PCL and Fnatic charge in again, and Speedo is yet again scared off of his wave, dropped to half HP, forced away from his own turret. Array got that hit, blind.
Just fishing. Despite them losing that skirmish in the top side, and this Rift Herald should now be in the hands of Resolve, it's actually well played by C9. The dash from Axio and the dash from Speedo If they don't time those dashes correctly and eat the skill shots into the CC that were coming out from Resolve, they would have went down as well. So they do lose the objective, but they do save their lives. As Fnatic is working on the Rift Herald, will secure that one for himself. Resolve have 3 minutes to try and get some points with Shelly.
Cloud9 trying to set up a little collapse there. You saw Shrimps roaming up, Exu and Speedo coming down from the top lane. Very interesting that they're still trying these things, still taking swings. It's good to see from Cloud9. And it underscores that they're certainly not out of this game yet. There is a massive gold lead now in PCL's pocket, but everywhere else on the map, things are going pretty even, if not favoring Cloud9. Wixie still farming up a storm down bottom.
But he's going for the Immortal Shield Bow, which is a lower damage build, and now he might get chased down. He does have Flash.
Breezy. Winter drops the pillar. Breezy's rooted. Wixie just needs to run. They'll be able to do so.
Fnatic dropping a few camps to try and pressure the bot lane, but not a problem. As this Trundle Senna, you cannot move Trundle Senna at this point, especially with Wixie going for the Immortal Shield Bow. Now the next base, he will have a completed Cole, as he did start off the game with that, and Hunter Farm going to cash that one in. But you can still see the difficulty that C9 are going to run into, because a Senna Trundle comp, it's very easy to survive these fights, especially with a Moonstone on the Karma. And I don't know if C9 has enough sustained damage to win these team fights. They have to rely on finding skirmishes and picking members of Resolve off.
Array's at 50 souls. A fact I just noticed because that was the longest range skill shot I've seen in a while. It's been some time without a Senna in competitive play. Very scary signs. Resolve really coming online in this mid-game, and again, this is their preferred game state. They're going to be able to take that turret up top. They do have the Rift Herald, but I don't think it's going to be used for this. It's certainly not necessary. Down bottom, there is equivalent pressure from Breezy and Wixie, but nothing to back it up.
They could save it for the next one. The last patch, they added more local gold to the inner turrets. And once again, Resolve, they're A-okay giving up that dragon. That does not matter. Getting more gold into their pockets. They are the scaling composition. They favor themselves as the game goes on. So I love the fact that they're playing for gold early, and now Shrimps, keep in mind, he doesn't have Flash.
He'll just walk away, leave lane.
I got a little ahead of myself there.
Pay attention to Axu coming in on kind of the flank here. Shrimps is going to step back up as this Rift Herald is summoned. And Axu and Breezy fly in, charm-bound, Dawning Shadow for the backup. PCL steps to the front lines. Axu very low, dives on the APA, will manage to get the kill, but dies immediately after. In the meantime, Fnatic's hard chasing Breezy. That's a step too far. Speedo comes in with the flash. Fnatic's gone. 1 for 1, 2 for 2 in the middle of the map. Rift Herald charge did come out, so it's a little more gold over into Resolve's pockets, but C9, you've got to take those even trades, and they will.
It's an even trade on the scoreboard, but TJ, if it wasn't for Fnatic kind of, you know, giving C9 a little bit of charity there, it's not even in these fights. And you can see the idea for C9. They have to go in and blow up a member of Resolve, but once they don't blow up APA, look at the team fight after all the initial cooldowns are burned. Breezy, Axu, they sync up, they go in on APA, but once he doesn't fall, it's so easy for Resolve to turn the team fights with the Moonstone Karma. Look at how high these health bars are afterwards. As Fnatic doing a little bit of limit testing here. It happens.
They don't call him Speedo because he's slow. But
the flash.
You are so unimpressed. Matthew Cummings Samuelson, completely unimpressed.
Honestly, as usual, I couldn't think of a response. As speaking of responses, C9 going after APA.
I like it. APA caught out. This time's the charm. Oh no! Flash to dodge the moonfall. And a TP coming out. That's PCL. He'll arrive. Speedo chained down. PCL obliterates Axu. Here are Resolve. And APA with the self-shield can stay ahead of Speedo this time round. It's 2 for North. As Cloud9 lose out on their top lane play.
And this is the Resolve that's in their comfort zone, right? The ones that's taking brawls, taking skirmishes, as Wixie does have Flash. Breezy gets stunned up.
We'll be able to survive the experience. Rakan, a fast little boy, the second speedy boy over there on Cloud9.
while that was going on, Shrimps did take down the bot outer turret and crashed a wave. And that's going to keep C9 within reaching distance of this gold deficit. They find themselves down 2.5k gold. And I think the big key for C9, once again, is they have to take down someone first. They just have to get one member off the map. And I think their targets they're going to be looking at, it's the Karma and the Viego. Because you want to either deny the resets or deny the team shields that would be coming in from the Moonstone. As they try to focus the Karma in this play. But APA with this flash, dodges out on the Moonfall damage, and that's all the time that he needs for a double buff Eclipse PCL to come in on this Jace and just bring the hammer down on the Axie.
You know, I saw it the first time round, but watching this team fight, particularly the second half where they just kite Speedo like he's an MMO boss, absolutely delightful to see. Resolve demonstrating some of that team fight synergy we talked up at the very beginning of this broadcast and lacked during game number 1. This is how Resolve earned their reputation. Quick, clean communication in team fights. Very clear looking decision making. And here it earns them yet more advantage on the map. They do get a turret down bottom. Cloud9 did trade it even, but this will be Resolve shortly tying everything up. As it is 3 turrets to 3, the bot lane tier 2 falling.
Resolve went out on that trade as, once again, those bot inners, they give more gold with the recent changes made in 11.1.3. As Resolve now going for the reset in TJ, we might have a Dragon where things are contested. C9 do have access to a Rift Herald to drop mid to try and get more pressure around this objective. But 30 seconds out, Resolve just reset. C9 have the opportunity to get in this river first, try and get a setup when they might desperately need, because they need to control vision, try and find a pick. I think it's the only way they can win some of these fights, TJ.
Rift Herald, sorry, did just get picked up by Cloud9, so they're going to use that here on this Drake.
Yeah, they're farming. I think they're giving it. I think they realize they're too far behind. They need to find isolated picks, and playing into the 5v5 is playing into Resolve's hands. Resolve is going to force them to group up as they try and siege down on this mid-lane turret. And Wixie, the Karma damage with the pillar from Trundle. Wixie's down at half.
You love to see it. That's the poke composition that Resolve drafted.
You'd love to see it,
online.
but also, if you're a C9 fan, like, how does Wixie play this game, man, against the Karma Trundle at this point? Holy smokes. I mean, that, like, the pillar, he has access to flash, so but he has to be really smart about how he uses it against Resolve, as Resolve just grouping up, using the pillar, using the poke from Karma to try and take down this mid-lane turret.
I'm checking my notes, and if you are, in fact, a fan of Cloud9, you hate to see it, as Drake goes over. First Drake of the game to Resolve as they're finally able to get something out on the map that is the first objective in a while they've taken. The priority for Resolve much more on gaining gold, equalizing those turrets, which they did. Because at this point, as we just talked about, the poke composition is online. You have Jace, you have Karma, you have Senna. And that's going to make approaching the backline in a straight-up fight all but impossible. Instead, you need to focus this out, but PCL absolutely deletes Captain Shrimps. That was gross, and actually realizes he's put into far more than he bargained for. Winter gets the kill somehow, as a second kill goes over to Resolve.
And here comes the Trundle. This mid lane is falling, but I don't think they care about the turret. They want more kills. They're going to try and get the flash out of Wixie.
It's construction time. Pillar thrown down, and that builds the space. Wixie and Breezy drift back. Turret does fall. Second turret, tier 2. Now under threat, and Breezy and Wixie can do nothing but watch on, look in horror as their turrets, their bases melt. That's going to happen in mid for the tier 2, top for the tier 2. It's all exposed inhibitors from here on out. And guess what's just shown up on the map, Cummy?
The Baron. As
you're right.
That poke comp, they bring that into that top river. They have a chance to play around it. And I just love how Resolve are playing this game out, TJ. It's so much improved compared to the last one. Once they got that first favorable play on the map, they've really focused on just denying any opportunity for C9 to get a pick on the side lanes, which, to be fair to C9, that's what they have to do to come back. You cannot teamfight this Senna Trundle Karma comp. There's no way that you can get through the shields with the damage that you have. As Resolve, both teams understand this, and Resolve has had the right counters as TP from PCL. Woo!
Oh no! Wixie! Please, the humanity! Wixie goes down. Exu and Shrimps will run. Breezy able to hop over the wall. There was just nothing. There's so much ranged slow on Resolve.
And that's what I was talking about with that mid turret where they weren't going for the turret. They were just going for Wixie's flash, because then you can punish that over and over again. That's the main sustained damage for C9 as the Baron started. They can do this forever with Karma Senna. If they're going to try and use their poke to zone out the members. I'm curious to see what they do. I think they're going to burn it down to about 4K, and then we're going to have to see if they turn or they go to burn it, because it seems to be the turn. Breezy's in trouble.
Yeah, Xu, unwarded, does sneak around the back, but nobody's on the Baron, so he's all alone. The last kid in a McDonald's playpen, wondering where everyone went. Top side of the map, nothing to do.
How do you just come up with that? Did you have a tragic life experience in McDonald's playpen, TJ?
I think it was actually Carl's Jr.
Oh, okay. I got stuck on a Chuck E. Cheese slide once.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I did.
How'd
they
you
gave me a
get
free
stuck?
pizza out of it. It was great.
I'd get stuck every day.
Yeah,
Actually, Chuck E. Cheese pizza? Maybe that was the punishment.
and once again, Wixie, he doesn't have flash in this play, and launched this empowered shock blast from PCL. That's pretty good as they go for the full commit, get the kill. And honestly, the fact that Resolve didn't turn that into more is a win for C9. A lot of that tempo burned by Resolve too. They burned the TP, they burned the flash to make the play happen, and they don't walk out with a big reward at the end of the Golden Rainbow. C9 were able to stall that, prevent that for themselves, and while they still find themselves in trouble this game, that's a TP that they can use, or Resolve can't use to respond to the next side lane play that C9 attempts. So a small win for them, even though Wixie goes down.
Yeah, Cloud9 doing a very good job playing from behind. This is something I love to highlight a lot when we're casting Cubby, where it is hard to play losing games and it is unrewarding because most of the time it's hard to turn things round in League of Legends. But Cloud9 are doing a fairly good job of accepting that they're behind in this game and just trying to find what minor risks they can take for positive trades on the map. And it's not impossible because they do have time. That is the one thing they get here. Resolve, at least till they're able to bring this Senna to bear, have kind of slow turret takes. They don't have the Drake yet, or they're ways away from the Soul. So, whilst Resolve don't do Baron, Cloud9 can just kind of keep this game going.
They can. I don't think it really favors them as things go on. But Karma can't really respond to Lucian in the side lane, as Karma wants to stay grouped with the team, and C9 is at least taking advantage of that, trying to pick up gold, trying to pick up objectives around the map where they can, as they do trade out the Dragon, which there is no world that they can contest for the top outer turret, or inner turret, so he's getting some more gold onto this Lucian, who... We talked about some of the aspects of C9 that they struggle against range. That Sorelda's second item will help a lot against the range, because the culling, that's a slow now in every single bullet, so... Oh boy. It's a big Jace.
Stun found. Speedo. Dawning Shadow. That is gross. PCL gets the kill.
And Array just gets to walk out, say thanks for the assist. I'm going to go take the credit card, do some shopping with that right off the bat. And so getting closer to that Rage Blade that Senna's working on. Of course, if you stack up the Kraken Slayer stack with the Rage Blade stack, you can get that true damage to proc twice. Pretty good for the Senna as these fights drag on. And, of course, Senna... A little bit of a bigger gold lead than it actually looks like for Resolve with the souls on Senna as well. So Resolve, total control. Very much the opposite of what we saw in the last game, TJ, where C9 at this point had 20 kills and we're pushing into the base of Resolve.
Can we get a soul check production? I'd just love to know where Ray is at.
I thought you wanted some like Stevie Wonder music to be blasted, or you have some real soul. As 102. Oh boy,
Woo!
that's pretty thick.
Soul.
It's a big Senna.
That's all you need. Like you were talking about, you kind of mitigate the item disparity with that soul. And Array farmed up very quickly because they had a lot of skirmishing in lane, which is very bad. If you're playing into a Senna, you do not want to be constantly trading auto attacks. But Wixie constantly was trying to gain access to Winter, stepping into those auto attacks. Did like 50 souls very early on. Here's Cloud9, middle of the map. As Resolve kind of roamed down, they're in a 4v3, but not a winning one, which Cloud9 recognized. They'll back away here. The real goal is you don't want Resolve getting this Baron, and you want to keep harassing them to that end.
Uh-oh, Breezy, that's a W the wrong way. He might be in trouble.
Oh, he carries the root!
Oh,
Treason!
no!
Wixie now rooted as well. He's going to have to cut away. Fnatic
Overhealing.
goes a little bit too deep and gets burnt down. XU able to stasis to avoid the reset. Very well played. Very, very well played by Cloud9 to avert catastrophe there, as that could have gone so very wrong.
Well played from Fnatic, too, to get out of that one, but PCL's backing, and if he TPs right away, I think they might try and burn the Baron, as, oh, it's going to be a trap instead. Oh, boy. Goodbye.
They know that Resolve have to do this Baron, so Resolve just wait around. Cloud9 step in. Easy trap, easy Baron.
Yeah, Constable Trundle says, get out of the alley, as he sends Captain Shrimps back to the gray screen. C9 now without Shrimps. No way to close the gap, no way to compete with the Karma grouped up. And it will finally be Baron for Resolve. As C9, that was a mistake from Breezy. They managed to save it. They almost managed to take down Fnatic with all the extra heals they gave over. As you can see, Fnatic, he's chasing for the reset here, as Breezy W the wrong way.
Ooh.
Ends up stunning up both of them, but the heal from Wixie, I believe, is what saves him. As, oh boy, that's not even close there. And Fnatic saved by APA as well. The Moonstone Karma coming up clutch.
I saw him carry that route, and my entire life flashed before my eyes. I too was stuck in a slide in a McDonald's playpen. No, it was a Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah. Oh. That's a bold dash there from Captain Shrimps.
Yeah, Captain Shrimps.
Yeah, no, you're not going to survive that. As he turns the corner, finds two members he wasn't expecting to find, and all of a sudden now Resolve find a Baron they weren't expecting to find right exactly there. They're going to try and stretch this one out throughout the 3 lanes. They can use Trundle to split push, and that's exactly where C9's going to attack right now.
Poor Winter.
He just
He'll
walks
be able
out.
to drop the cone and walk away, but he is getting burned down
He
here.
doesn't walk
Dawning
out.
Shadow across the map. There's the culling.
does.
Shrimps has got the shutdown. At what cost, though? Because down the mid lane go Resolve. Sure, they're down a player, but they don't especially need that advantage thanks to their pokes. They take the mid inhibitor, expose the bottom inhibitor. Here comes Breezy off the reset. All 5 now here for Cloud9. 5v4. Can they save this inhibitor? I don't think so. Full burn down. The second inhibitor gone. The fight for the Nexus turrets begins now.
Yeah, Resolve are sticking around. They want to end it here, and they can. Winter has TP up in 13 seconds once he survives as...
Oh, Shrimps!
Look at
Just
Array.
burned. That was APA and Array just doing so much damage with the ranged poke. They can't leave the fountain as the Nexus turrets fall. Resolve step forward. All 5 pressing in for the Nexus. PCL shreds the side. Here come the auto attacks. Just on to the Nexus as Resolve are going to tie this series up. Cloud9 take game number 1 and Resolve drag us back to an even 1-1.
Hold on. All right, I think they had a little bit too much fun. 4 members drop. They're going to take down the Nexus right there as Winter says, I've had enough. He autos the Nexus and leaves the game. As you mentioned it, Resolve, they brought it back. And what a creative draft from them with that Senna, TJ. I was teasing the Senna Karma potentially. They could have found another pick like a Galio, but Winter breaks out the Trundle, and once C9 got behind, once they couldn't find the plays to get back into side lanes, Resolve just grouped up, end of the game, and a much improved look from them going into this game too.
And I think that, for that reason, that is one of the most exciting compositions I've seen in a while, because it was very deliberately created to do a specific thing, which is, hey, we're going to get to the mid-late game, we're going to have so much poke damage, nobody can get close. And then they're able to follow that up by pressing through the early game with that Viego so that they can get out of that early game, get out of that early laning phase without any risk.
And a credit to Fnatic, who him and PCL were able to sync up much better in that one. Also, Fnatic initially got the flash out of XU, got a huge advantage on the first 2 clears of the jungle because he was able to put Diana behind, was able to get 6 fast enough, and that combined with Jace going off in that side lane, it was the side lane that beats both Renekton and Lucian. PCL was funneled, took advantage of it, Resolve ended up taking the win.
So, I also want to give huge credit to Rebel on our desk, because Rebel at the very beginning of the day said, my ideal world for Resolve, PCL gets an early lead, the bot lane is kind of left to their own devices early, it's the Fnatic PCL show, and you snowball that into the team fighting where they do well. That's exactly what happens. So here's the question, what do Cloud9 draw from this game? We talked about how they instantly lost XU during the early game. How do you prevent that going into Game 3?
I think C9 gets red side. They have choice of side as they lost. I think that you just prevent it with red side. We're going to have to see if that's the decision they make as we are getting ready to hop into Game 3.
All right, we'll go to a break. We'll come back with the desk. We'll come back with that Game 3 right after this.
Class, we have show and tell today, and I'm looking at you, Miss Malhas. First of all, I noticed that you have something to your side. Do you want to share with the rest of the class what you've brought to show and tell today?
Yeah, I figured I'd do a little bit of a visual representation, of a replay before we look at really a replay of one of the fights that we saw take place. So we'll see how long it takes you to figure out. I'm not even going to show, it's going to be sitting right here for this one. All right, so this is a bush. We got someone in a bush. And then we've got, I don't have Speedos. But we got Speedo, who comes through. Here we go. Sorry, more summer. Speedo's coming through here, and out jumps the jungle. We got summer props, summertime props.
Yeah!
Out jumps the jungle, the shark himself, in Fnatic, and you know that was a killer play. I'm out, guys.
That was the best show and tell I've ever seen. That beats all the lame ones I saw when I was a kid growing up. But Rebel, I think Jolly is onto something here for our game 2, because it was pretty instrumental to why Resolve bounced back.
Yeah, Resolve was able to finally find something to attack. Game 1, they were kind of struggling in that regard, finding any advantage that they could in any particular lane or in their jungle matchup. And in this one, not only was it ganks, but also like there was resources going into topside from Cloud9 that was also getting denied. All of those counterplays and things that were coming about was really important. So now we've seen 2 games where like the clash has come through between the 2 members. Actually, I also have brought something to show and tell. I know this is not scripted, so you 2 don't know. This is Bunky the Monkey. He is the he is a results-based analyst, and he represents not Fnatic, but whichever top laner loses this game. So, yes.
All right, is he on the payroll?
It's adorable.
Is that
He's
gonna
on my
dock
payroll,
from
that's
me?
for sure.
Okay, all right, cool, we're good. I do. I like that you guys make an LLC together. You guys can get some good work.
Get that cash flow coming in. But we do have to look at why this affected the rest of the game for Resolve, because this was essentially a Siege and Poke composition. And one of the cooler things that actually came into the draft was that last pick, Jolly, which was the Trundle support. And if you've been if you follow Oliver on Twitter, or Winter's handle, you'll see that about a month ago on June 29th, he showed a lot of Trundle games in his support solo queue ranking history, and we didn't necessarily get all of a lot of Trundle action, but combined with the poke that you get from the Jace and the Karma, you roll down this Trundle pillar as well as a slow, and it's incredibly easy to hit as well.
It makes it really a self-sufficient bottom lane as well, but this is a nice little replay here of the first kill onto Speedo. Yeah, this is your job. Sorry, I'm the play-by-play, so I'm like, this is Rebel's job to jump in and do the replay breakdown. That's my bad.
That's fair. It's a back and forth, of course, that comes between these two, where, again, you're able to find one, and then Fnatic sticking around just to completely ruin Speedo's day. Not only shutting out, like, early pressure you could have into a Renekton to start the game off, but also, again, both accelerating Pycan lane's actual laning phase, because he decided to actually can lane instead of can't lane this time. The shutting out Renekton, putting resources into Jace, it just wins your top side for you pretty much entirely across the board. Mid lane struggling because like Lucian's playing into Karma. It's not super easy to pull a bunch of the advantage since Karma's really safe, not easy to play against. You saw that a couple times during the game where Karma just absorbed pressure and did not end up going down. And so all of this aggression that came out from C9 was just thwarted. Their early game for their Jace was like very good, and there was nothing happening bot side where like this Trundle is just like, okay, mid game comes, pillar, and they die. Pillar, they die. Pillar, they die. Pillar, what happens?
Even from,
that's right.
Even from the get-go, there is a plan that Cubby called out during the cast as well, from that 3-wave stacked timer from PyK Lord on the top side. Fnatic adapted his jungle pathing, didn't go for a full clear that you normally can do on Viego to match a Diana. He invaded after a 4-camp, catching Diana in the midst of taking that Gromp, forcing them to flash out, and then not only you put them behind in terms of tempo, but also you are able to ensure double crabs on top of it. So Resolve just overall had a clearer and more cohesive game plan that worked out for them, because as we're getting into Game 3 for the next draft, and I want to go to you, Jolly, because last time you said in Game 1 Resolve had a good composition, but they just didn't execute it, and they didn't act on their win conditions soon enough, because by the time they fought around the third dragon, it was already too late. This Game 2, they took your words too hard, and they actually made happen on the map here. They got it done. So now, if we're seeing Cloud9 Amateur return to the red side, what are some picks that Resolve need to keep their eye out as they are trying to make sure that they can get the best first pick for themselves here in the draft?
Yeah, I would say Diana obviously is high pick for blue side, but right now, clearly she hasn't really been effective on either team here, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. I would say trying to kind of run a similar composition in terms of just kill lanes, and then down on the bottom side, something that's self-sufficient. And you hate to see all of the adjustments and the sway in wins on red side, and then Resolve knowing that they are going into this one, potentially looking down the barrel of a gun that they can't really avoid. But at the same time, if they continue to play like they did and just take advantage over these objectives, there's not a lot that can be done there on the other side there for C9 Academy, or Amateur, my goodness.
Rebel, and I want to throw it to you as well, getting in last thoughts is... I believe we'll be jumping into draft soon for Game 3, but as I take that back, but Rebel, I think the other thing that Cloud9 Amateur need to ask themselves at this point then is, when you look at a composition where Resolve are actually getting off the ground in the first few minutes, there was a couple of points where they try to find some team fights. You even brought this up as well, that even though Resolve didn't let it get punished, there was a moment where they pulled off the Baron and lost some time that potentially could have punished them had Cloud9 Amateur been able to stabilize and stall the game long enough.
Mm-hmm. It was it's clear Resolve has like this game plan for early, that mid game, like I said, that one Baron call, I'm not going to say is indicative of what's to happen in their game. Apologies. But one of the bigger things that I think will overarch here inside of Cloud9's game plan, especially for game number 3, especially if Resolve's able to come back to throwing punches early, which is really nice. Something I noticed was like Captain Shrimps was playing a lot of side lane. I don't like that. I don't like Captain Shrimps in the side lane. Not that he's not good, not that he doesn't have resources. More so that like you said it yourself, like I see him as a Fizz player first. I see him as like the Galio player. I want to see him as somebody that's interacting with other players because he's really good at the game. Like he presses buttons fantastically. So like I don't want to see him auto-click the turret and say, I push wave, I take tower, I get 200 gold, I have no use in fight. I want to see him actually go fight people. And I think that's something they were missing really heavily, was once mid lane broke down, once top lane kind of broke down, Lucian effectively was just a side laner and wasn't able to really put a bunch of impact in. I'd like to see them get him on something that's either more active early. Galio was really good if they want to go back to like an XU focused composition, or something he can smash on his own right. I know Rumble's one of those champions that like it's in the back pocket, but even things like LeBlanc or Akali that have like popped up in recent patches that can kind of generate their own advantage is what I'd be looking for.
TF.
Yeah, TF is also a good option because it is an enabler, right? You shove out your lane, and then you look to make plays with Destiny on the map. I actually want to then kind of challenge you even further. Mm-hmm. So, if you're in Cloud9 Amateur shoes, and knowingly you did put Captain Shrimps on something that is supposed to get you lane priority as Lucian, but it was kind of nullified by Karma because Karma is just one of those champions coming into the mid lane. You don't necessarily bully the other person into submission, but you're able to go even, and you're able to nullify the pressure from that lane. Does that signal to Cloud9 Amateur that they need to take away the Karma, or do they just need to completely shift Captain Shrimps' champion priority in what they're giving him, not something like Illusion?
I think it depends on first what Resolve is prioritizing at the very beginning of draft, because we've seen some champions like Viego and Gwen start to slip through. I have a feeling Aurelia is eventually going to slip through the cracks, as we've gotten through 2 games now that have been competitive, so both teams are going to have more targeted bans to go to rather than Aurelia. And if things like that happen, then like Aurelia is not really flexible. APA's champion pool is a little bit reserved, my apologies, but like if C9 knows that that's going to be the case, like if you see something like an Aurelia or like a Camille that's coming in as opposed to something flexible across multiple lanes, like what would be Lee Sin or Ziggs for this team, you don't have to worry about that. And that means that like if you see that forecoming, you can wait to ban Karma, or you can like be like, okay, if we're leaving up things that are powerful but they don't go in the mid lane for this team, if they get picked, then they don't have to worry about banning Karma. They can wait till second rotation or not ban it at all. Or they get it themselves, because that means Resolve is going to prioritize Karma, and they can give themselves a bunch of drafting tools and things of that sort.
Okay. Well, let's see if it comes to fruition here for Cloud9 Amateur. This is going to be for Game 3. This is we're still calculating things in kind of the back end to see whether 2-1 for Resolve would actually be able to put them in playoffs contention or not, because there's other things involved apart from head-to-head, map score, and also game time. So depending on how fast Resolve closes out, then maybe there is a chance. But we're going to let TJ and Cubby make the final call on this last game.
Thank you for giving us that power, Rafa, and I can't wait because we are here, Game 3. It comes all the way down to the final map of the third best of 3 these two teams have played this season, and it's gone very dominantly both ways, Cubby.
And I just want to touch on Rafa's point real quick, as it has gone dominant both ways, but Rafa, guess what? We've done the math here while you guys were on the desk, and the winner of this series will make it to playoffs. OQs, they are 1-2. They won 2 maps, both over Resolve, and they're 2-0. But the fact that Resolve took TSM to 3 means that their game score matches would be higher, and C9's game score is also higher, which means that the winner of this series makes it into the playoffs as the second seed out of this group. So all the marbles are on the line for this one.
You just math-checked Rafa.
I
It's
did.
like a body check.
I had some more time, but I did math check Rafa. You know what? Every desk I'm on with Rafa, he host gaps me. So I just have to do it once to him. Just give him the business, right?
I like it. I approve of you getting a little bit of revenge.
Let's go.
As Resolve would be looking to, they did lose the last time these two teams faced. Cloud9 absolutely obliterated them, knocking them out of the Risen quarterfinals 3-0. We highlighted how earlier in the season the Challengers Uprising, Resolve did the inverse, knocking Cloud9 out of Challengers Uprising. Here we go, now for all the marbles. Winner of this game gets out of groups. Winner of this game continues here in our Proving Grounds qualifiers. Here we go with Resolve versus Cloud9 for Map 3. Resolve do take the blue side, Cloud9 get the red side. Let's talk through the bans. No Lucian, no Karma anywhere on this sheet, and a first pick Aurelia to Resolve.
And this enables XU to get back on that playmaker. Lee Sin, a key pick for C9, as both Speedo and XU can play it very well. As 11-14, Aurelia, a new champion, one that's been very powerful with the changes they made to her.
One thing I'm flagging is the fact that Cloud9, I think quite correctly, decide that the problem with this game is Fnatic. Thanks, Cubby.
I had to mute for that. Not for you, but for the stream, you know.
Like
TJ got all of it.
I just got it in my ear. That was very good.
It's great.
Anyway, I think they quite correctly diagnosed the problem is Fnatic. So ban away the Viego, make sure he doesn't get that problem. Resolve are able to still get Fnatic a very meta carry right here in this Diana. I want to ask you about the Braum as well. Could you maybe give me the rundown there, as it will go to Winter, one of his trademark picks. What does it pair with right now?
Aurelia, right? Stack up those auto attacks. Get the Q reset off where you can easily proc Braum passive instantly. And it's more of a soft counter to Leona, and also comfort for Winter. One of his best picks that could potentially enable a Jinx or an Aphelios out of Array. As it's not the traditional pairing, but it is something that is playable. As Shrimps, oftentimes on red side, C9 will give Captain Shrimp's counter pick, but instead they lock in his champion early, and they're taking away 2 of APA's champions, kind of banking off the fact that, hey, we don't think APA plays Aurelia, as Aurelia is not a champion that APA plays, but with the new patch, we're going to have to see if he's been able to pick it up.
I'm very excited to see this. The Aurelia is in the pool. Here are the bans. It's Karma, it's Syndra, Cloud9 focusing in like we talked about. Shrimps will get the LeBlanc. And now we go into the second phase. Still 80 carries to be decided by both teams. We'll get our first one there. Wixie getting a Jinx, a character they are no stranger to, but a little out of meta these days, Cubby. Is that why we get the ooh from you?
It's the ooh for me, because Wixie's really good at Jinx. And with a LeBlanc, if you can get that first kill, get that reset for Wixie, get the Jinx excited, that could be possible. As, oh boy. This hover,
wow.
So we've been teasing out the fact, Jolly mentioned that APA's champion pool, it's built different. And Scion mid into a LeBlanc, I believe, is going to be the pick here for APA's. That is his counter pick. And we're going to have to see if Speedo gets counter pick against Aurelia, or if Axie is going to get his choice of jungler here.
Constructed diversely.
Oh, I'd like Set a lot.
APA's champ pool.
Set's really good in the both Sion and Aurelia. I think this should be insta-locked by C9, and will make things difficult for Resolve as this game continues. Sion into the Blanc, it makes it so that the Blanc, like, you never have kill pressure, you don't really have the ability to have a lot of say in the lane, and Sion does get priority, but LeBlanc later does dance around the Sion very well. But it's a big front line for Resolve with this Sion, with this Braum, and it might even be like a Titanic Hydra Sterix Gage Sion to guarantee push. I'm really curious to see what APA actually opts for here with his build.
I think it's wild. We went through 2 games with such diverse picks for both teams. It was always kind of a playstyle matchup. Here in Game 3, these are very similar drafts. These both have a ton of engage. They both have that single solitary sustained damage dealer in the Aphelios, the Jinx. They both have the Assassins to threaten the backlines. Obviously, it's changed where they are through that top half of the map, but it's pretty even, all things considered, and this is just going to come down to that skill check during the early game.
I mean, the one thing that C9 are returning to, it's that Lee Sin LeBlanc duo, this mid-jungle duo, is so powerful throughout the history of League of Legends, and that's how they won Game 1, TJ. It was with the Galio Graves. That was denied from them as Resolve took away the Graves. They're going to try and emulate the same magic with LeBlanc and Lee Sin. And my eyes instantly go up to what Rebel was talking about, the fact that playing through PCL, this is a tough matchup for Aurelia going into the set, but if Fnatic, if XU get involved, that could be a lethal topside, as we're going to have to see if Resolve can do something to get that Aurelia ahead and take advantage of how powerful this pick is on this new patch.
We saw it already during game number 2. PCL gets the lead, Resolve get the lead. The big difference, though, XU didn't get rolling last game. Game number 1, it was the XU show all the way, and now it comes down most likely to those 2 junglers. Fnatic v XU, Resolve v Cloud9. Game 3, it determines who goes forward in this tournament and who stays here in the group stage, crying like a child left alone in a bullpen.
Oh man, you just had to do that to me. It was like in like the middle of a slide too, and it chucked a cheat. It was not good.
How did you get stuck in the middle? Because they go down. That's the part I'm struggling with. Slides are vehicles. They're one of the few devices in modern life that's designed to take a human being from the top to the bottom. So how did you get stuck midway through that?
I was 8. I probably shouldn't be going through those at 8. But, you know, it's a kid's birthday party. You gotta have fun.
No, how? Because I was 8 as well, and gravity worked on me just fine.
It was like one of those where it was like a slide on both sides, and like up top, there's no gravity because like it's flat, you know?
Oh.
So, as we are seeing the Set versus Aurelia matchup, and why it's so difficult for Aurelia, already demonstrated level 1. Really like that from Speedo. PCL is going to be away to lane. Might even have to burn TP to make sure he gets those creeps. So we are returning to the game state. We have Fnatic getting a leash from Sion, starting on the Raptors. So going for the camps first that respawn. I like this a lot from APA and Fnatic. This should get Diana going early, which is very important for Diana. If you get that early level 6, taking the Raptors and Krugs first does guarantee that. But unfortunately, PCL is going to miss 3 creeps on that first wave and will be very, very far behind in this matchup.
So how did they get you out? Did someone have to, like, crawl into the slide?
Oh, yeah. Employee came on in. It was not fun.
I'm having a lot of fun. Your pain at 8 years old was for this moment. Resolve start the early game drifting towards the top side in the jungle. Array dominating down bottom with the early Aphelios clear. Here's APA on his mid-Sion. No, you didn't end up in a different dimension. That's just how APA do.
And I'm really curious to see what APA builds, because Anathema's Chains is a very good item on Sion. Could really try and limit the damage of Jinx, who, as you mentioned, is that big single-target DPS individual for C9. And Anathema's Chains on Sion, the fact that he barely takes any damage to begin with, could be the tech that APA is going to opt for, as he already has the tech with Champion pick. As both
and it is kind of... It is kind of only the Jinx that's scary if you're Sion right now. Provided this LeBlanc doesn't get insanely ahead, which APA is missing a couple of waves here. A cannon minion just went down, so genuine tragedy. But
all he needs is the XP. That's what it's all about for Sion, just like top lane Sion.
But provided neither LeBlanc nor XU get very far ahead, and XU's on ward here. Fnatic
He's going for the
knows
dive, but
exactly.
this is spotted. A nice word from Fnatic. He's going to try and answer this. This could be big.
PCL playing the bait, double TP in, Speedo trapped underneath the turret. XU realizes the play's been read, and he will walk away. The game is up, and Speedo's caught out, tries to dash away. He's gone. First blood to Resolve as a ward reads Cloud9's map movements perfectly.
And what a counter from Resolve off of that ward, given the information. As Speedo, that entire lead that he received against Aurelia, thanks to the level 1 trade, evaporates at the hands of Resolve, who see XU on the ward, have the perfect answer in mind, and are able to execute it this time around. As Fnatic and PCL, they didn't sync up game 1, they were synced up game 2, and an early play with the help of APA pulled off by the top side of Resolve, get them a good start.
Very well played by PCL. Decently played by XU as well to just realize this is over and cut his losses.
This was kind of weird, though, from Speedo, because if the Haymaker actually connected with PCL, maybe he's able to get a kill.
Yeah,
And Burn
split
Flash still
decision.
dies. He was dead. Well, he was very dead.
Kind of split decision, do I have space to get out? Should I stay here and try and get the kill?
Yeah.
Net result, no real chance at either. Speedo burns both summoners.
And that's important because this can be revisited now by Resolve. We talked about playing through that Aurelia, enabling her in this matchup where it's not the greatest matchup for her, but now that PCL has this start, he can do a lot with it. And I want to see if Fnatic makes a revisit. He started on the bot camps, so if he takes the respawns, he can path bot the top and try and revisit. But it appears that he's going to put some love into his bot lane and help them at least get this wave shoved in.
Yeah, Drake is up, so both bot laners wanted to go down here. But the wave got so shoved forward that I don't think XU dared, especially considering that Fnatic's due in the area, and Fnatic currently has an advantage over him. You can expect, given these two team compositions, that Drake to sit around for a while. It can be lonely for a bit, just because no one needs it early, so provided nobody earns a massive advantage down bottom, it'll chill.
And despite Set and Speedo being put behind early, he did a fast reset to get that Bramble. It really helps against all the healing that Aurelia does have in her kit, as PCL is going for the W max. That max, a lot of damage on the W and a lot of damage reduction on the W, trying to help keep Aurelia alive. As their Q damage mostly scales with levels, so points in that not quite as valuable as putting it in the W. One of the changes, many changes we have to Aurelia. As Fnatic and Winter are both roaming up here, we talked about playing through PCL, playing through this Aurelia. That's the game plan here for Resolve. Let's see if they can execute.
That's Haymaker.
Yeah.
Haymaker down, flash down.
Oh, he has ult.
Wave
They're
will
waiting for
crash.
XU. Oh, they called off.
XU was roaming up. You could see Resolve putting together the pieces, trying to bait XU into engaging onto PCL, and they don't get the opportunity.
I'm really surprised they called that play off, actually. I thought that even with the Haymaker down, even Set being so difficult to dive, with an Aurelia, with a Braum, you can still pull that off. I guess they just didn't feel like they had enough upfront damage to take down the Set. Play ends up being called off, and some tempo for Resolve lost. Not for... they don't lose too much out of it, but still a play that could have went their way that doesn't, as APA getting double chain might be in trouble.
Yeah, you are kind of seeing consequences here. APA just dead. Breeze able to get the kill.
What can he do,
Winter's
though?
still here, kind of
Can he get a
brawling, and
response?
XU's going to get stunned up by the zombie. XU will get away. Meantime, what is this? Speedo just able to isolate and suplex PCL. And Cloud9 find 2 kills across the map as the tempo that Resolve lost from that botched top play really did add up.
And I want to see how Speedo was able to turn that one around, because that's a huge win for the side of C9. The fact that he takes down the Aurelia, PCL has to take the walk of shame as he doesn't have TP up. And him getting solo kill, they put so many resources into this pick, but Speedo was able to make a payoff. Oh my goodness, PCL going down is huge.
Oh, he's got him on both sides. Yeah, just like that. The second you have minions on both sides, you as a set, you win that trade. Still gets dangerous, but he's got ult. Boom.
Oh, that's flash burn for PCL as well. Both summoner spells going down. Played steel caps now for Set. He has enough armor and enough heal cut to try and survive that matchup, try and mitigate it. As the Red Shield started for Fnatic, that Trinket Ward might scare him off. He pulls it again. XU's rotating. Shrimps might be able to make a play. Neither bot lane can be here as Speedo's walking down. This is dicey.
The call goes out, and Fnatic gets out of dodge. Rift Herald wanders for a bit, sees the sides.
Taking a walk.
Good
And I
for
think
it.
that was the one
It's
timer
banter.
where they could have gotten Rift Herald. And now that that's gone, they're going to try and shift their focus down to the bot lane where maybe Aphelios Braum, they can try and secure the first dragon of the game. But that's a huge win for C9, once again dodging out on the power of that Aurelia. So critical for them in the start of this game. The fact that Speedo now has more time to mitigate the power of Aurelia in that matchup. Big for C9.
And Cloud9, because they got that top half of the map open, can now kind of just run the tempo of this early game, which will pay very well for them, a team with a Jinx on it.
So that we keep track of APA's build as well, as it looks like it's going to be a Sterix rush for him, and potential dives coming in from both of the junglers. There is a double wave that PCL has to respect, has a control ward, so does not spot X2 yet. And Fnatic, instead of going for the bot dive, starts at the dragon. This is spotted by Shrimps.
It is spotted by Shrimps, but Resolve are fairly sure they have enough warding up on the top side of that map there to know what X2's up to.
APA's
So they feel... Captain Shrimps goes in. What is that? Captain Shrimps pushing into the middle of the pit, just kind of baiting. Speedo in the meantime cutting wave up top, continuing to bully. Drake will go over. Cloud9 in the meantime do get the Rift Herald, so it's objective for objective. Actually spotted on ward here again. Very good warding, paying dividends for Resolve. And it will mean that this trade is pretty straightforward. Drake for Rift Herald.
Opportunity to drop Shelly there was passed up upon by C9 as both teams understand the importance of this game, TJ. Resolve with the win here would own the game score, own the head-to-head to qualify for EGL playoff stage, despite dropping to an OQ team. Something that definitely hit Resolve very hard. I know talking with Winter, they said they had a big team meeting after Tuesday, and the vibe got a lot better. They know they made improvements. They were just hoping that they showed up on stage today, whereas C9 also dropping the TSM in a very close series to open up EGL. Said it was an ego check. Said that they wanted to go back and try to workshop what they were working on. And they're trying to come up with a solution to beat PCL, beat Resolve in this one as a dive coming in.
PCL all alone, 1v3. And there's not going to be any help coming their way. No TPs available.
Oh boy.
Goodbye, PCL. He is dead. If I'm not mistaken, APA had just TP'd back to mid lane. So there was just no way to respond, and that Rift Herald's going to crash. That's going to be a lot of gold passed over.
It is a trade of resources, though, as Aphelios Braum are trying to take place on the bot side, but are way behind in the race, and a second crash might come in top here as C9 attacking the Aurelia. We talked about the importance of getting that Aurelia ahead. C9 are denying that by playing towards that lane on their own, and the solo kill from Speedo really opened things up for them, enabled them to take that first break in the top lane, and now they're trying to crash a second one. They won't take that for themselves, but still, nice injection of gold available for C9 later in the game.
Yeah, big sets are scary, and it's been a while since we've seen one in competitive. But sets, if they get ahead, really can snowball. Xu may be in trouble. What a good hop over the wall. APA is still here, but Xu, the movement's good. Flash is everything he needs.
Speedo has flash. He's going. Yeah.
APA in trouble. Speedo finds the double stun from the face breaker. Fnatic to half HP. Stays ahead of the haymaker. APA is dead. This mid Scion struggling. Speedo gets chunked out here by the zombie, but should be able to stay ahead of it.
Yeah, interesting enough,
Resolve.
It's a hull breaker rush for Scion, as it does give him a lot more resistances if he's on his own in his side lane. Further benefits by the fact that every creep you kill, you get extra health on Scion's passive with the W. Very frustrating to deal with in the side lane, but when you group up, deal with him like that as 3, I talked about the set counterpick being really good because it deals with both side lanes really well. We saw that right there, the fact that Speedo was just able to flash in and go on the play and find a favorable trade once again for C9 as they're up 1.5k gold as plates are about to fall here in a minute.
And Resolve are just falling steadily further behind in this matchup. As you said, the all-important Game 3, Cloud9 right now about 1,000 gold ahead. Much of it earned from just mechanical outplays like this. Damn, that was good.
Good recognition from Speedo as I mean, I'm sitting here as a caster saying, like, he should flash and start the engage on Sion, right? RKOing Sion into the teammates of Resolve. That's a lot of damage, as, of course, do more damage, the more max health you have there for the set. As further attacks coming in. PCL's in trouble, has Fnatic, but Xyu's here.
And Speedo just sidestepped the stun. Will drop the ult. Is it enough? Huge damage from the Moonfall. Xyu in trouble. PCL stays ahead of the Haymaker. Here's the rest of the team. Xyu finds 2 in the midst of all this. But once APA step up, they're going to find
They don't have
nothing.
damage.
They don't get the kill. Xyu survives on a sliver of HP. And APA is left on an island. He'll go down eventually as well. It's going to be 3 kills passed over on the top side.
Once PCL goes down, that's all the damage for Resolve gone. As him and Fnatic fall first, good skirmishing from C9 that enables them, as they had more damage, to just turn and take a huge win in that top lane skirmish.
I was so sure APA was going to be able to get the trade onto Xyu, but he's had such a rough early game. He's got a Hullbreaker first item. He just doesn't do damage. In stark contrast to Speedo, who TP's in here behind Array. And Array, what do? Can you get an execute? No. What a good rocket comes in. Array's gone. And this game keeps spinning further and further out of Resolve's reach as that gold lead balloons by 4,000, and this is how.
And PCL, he's trying to stall so much time here, TJ. Does have the max stats for Aurelia's new 4-hit passive instead of 5. And the big key is the fact that Shrimps comes in, is able to wipe up Fnatic and PCL. He was somewhat forced to flash away from the Haymaker, but because he flashed out of the fight, was not able to re-engage, and once the 2 damage dealers go down, that's it. As we return to action, Shrimps trying to get chased down by Sion.
Able to stay ahead. Fnatic does not guess right. Shrimps will go down here. Interesting to me, Resolve, as ever, getting more aggressive as this game gets further away from them, because they recognize they're not winning an even map state right now. So the correct response, the response they know they have to go with, is forcing these individual kills. But of course, this means the numbers can add up quite quickly.
It's not all gloom and doom for Resolve yet, as Aurelia in the side lane over time should be able to win against
late
both
game Aurelia
and Lee Sin. Despite PCL being far behind at this point, Aurelia does scale very well, and with the changes to Aurelia, much stronger team fight as that W max, the damage reduction for Aurelia makes her a pseudo tank that still does a lot of DPS throughout these fights. But at the moment, it's still all C9, so you see all the objectives on the map going over to them. Resolve need to buy time, need to stall out this game. I think the only thing they can really do is try and sync up with Fnatic, Winter on the Diana Braum, try and go support PCL. Maybe you find a pick on a side.
Rift Herald was picked up just now, carried around the map by Xyu for Cloud9, as they get yet more on the objective count. Array and Winter are here in the mid lane, playing safe against a 3-man shove. It's a 1-3-1 across the map for Cloud9, as they're taking advantage of Speedo's strength, and it has been a standout performance for Speedo. He's not gotten a lot of the kills, but his mechanical ability on this set, getting the counterpick like you talked about, has just done so much for Cloud9.
And he's made up for that early misplay he had, right? The initial 2v2, Fnatic and PCL got the best of him. He burned Flash, still went down. But since then, Speedo's the one that's brought them back into this game. The fact that he was able to find the solo kill on Aurelia, had the foresight to start that engage on APA, and then turned around the fight top, the big skirmish that Resolve lost 4-0. And that's why you see C9 so far ahead. Resolve so scared to step out onto the map, as I love the fact Xyu, no camps up for him besides the Krugs, spending his time just hovering Shrimps, making sure that this LeBlanc can shove safely.
APA is finally trying to put that Hullbreaker to use up in the top lane, where he's shoving with Fnatic. They're trying to take a turret there. And Speedo is here to receive, so I really do think this just doesn't mean anything. They're just not going to get anything. Speedo is more than capable of clearing this. Fnatic steps up, spotted by a ward. You're right, Covey. There's 10 gold.
Big one. Meanwhile, Rift Herald drop mid, the second one. That should be mid turret going down. Shrimps hovering below. Oh. Okay.
Moonlit Vigil
interesting.
does land. Turret goes down. Rift Herald will fall. Here's Winter stepping up. Shrimp spots the vulnerable AD carry and dives onto Array. Winter will step back. Meantime, full engage at the front sides. PCL gets a kill behind APA's ult. Array in trouble. Will go down at the back of the fight. XU on the dive. XU able to find one with Captain Shrimps as they now slide down into the river. XU's too low.
Here.
He has to retreat. Winter, though, similarly low. As Speedo arrives, the fight turns, and PCL's got to back away. APA's just trying to find an answer, just trying to get anything onto Breezy, and it's not going to happen. PCL now all alone in the middle of this map, trying to turn something round. Oh no, Breezy goes down to the zombie, and PCL goes down to XU.
And once we get the replay of this fight, TJ, that fight was won by XU. He was able to find the primary members of Resolve and escaped with his life. And we complimented his ability to play the ganking junglers, play the Lee Sin. We talked about how important this pick was to C9, as both him and Speedo can play it. And we see why he's got the pick in this one, as it was a great start to the fight from Resolve. They got PCL a reset. They found Wixie immediately. Good syncing up from both Fnatic and APA. Watch XU here. Flashes in, dashes, gets Array, safeguards out to Breezy, dodges out the knockup from APA, and then once he gets the Gore Trigger back up, he goes in again.
And him and Captain Shrimp spend this entire fight with perfect target calling. Constantly threatening Array. Even before they get the kill, they zone Array so far back that he can't contribute to the fight.
Oh, that Sonic Wave was gross too from XU, as his Lee Sin's so good in that fight. The skirmish is necessary as he goes 6-0-6. Just what C9 needed, as they want to keep their hopes alive for making it out of playoffs. It would be tragic if they drop to Resolve after coming back the 2-0 from OQ, as both these teams looking to push it to the end. But C9, it's all them at the moment, and it's going to be spotted on a ward, but not starting the Baron, instead just taking down more vision, denying that, as it looks like Speedo is soloing out the Dragon.
Yeah, the fact that they show on the ward up top forces Resolve to answer up top. And that gives Speedo a degree of safety, a modicum of insurance down bottom here. Start things up. XU's in here as well. It's now been spotted out by Resolve, but there's nothing much they can really do about it. So, Drake goes over. Cloud9 getting yet more in their bank accounts. Cloud9 getting yet more in XU's bank account, as this is his second hard carry game of the day. A stunning performance from the jungler.
And
Good
looks like
movement from
APA is being
APA.
routed off, but oh boy.
Oh my lord, APA finds damage here.
Oh!
Will be able to get the kill. TP in as well. Resolve finding something, putting something together here on the top side. XU's still in the area, and he's trying to weave his resonating strike onto PCL. Can't do it. Breezy does have a flash. He'll be fine.
Yeah, because Speedo is on the bot turret. They have a chance to start it, but instead they're going to base, try to respond. But Resolve, they do find one shutdown. Good play from them.
I think difference between this and the last game where we saw Resolve during game 1 really throw a Hail Mary at the Baron is that, as you correctly pointed out, you have APA on the Sion, you have PCL on the Aurelia. These things get reasonably scary in the late game. They feel that if they play this out slow, Resolve still have a chance in the game.
And something that C9 will struggle with is a Kraken Slayer Jinx, but going Hurricane second. It's so good to sync up with Jinx's chompers, right? The Mega Gun where you get the multiple rockets, the big damage. But this does delay a Lord Dominic's regard. It's going to be very necessary going into a Sion, going into a Braum, even Aurelia. Speaking of traps,
TP.
Oh boy, here we go.
XU in, double TP now, coming out from Cloud9. Winter in the midst of the fight, drops the Glacial Fissures. APA arrives out of the TP, zoning off the back of the fight and splitting things. Captain Trips goes in, scared away. Great boomful from Fnatic.
Oh!
He drops into stasis, but what a rocket! It obliterates PCL. Here comes Speedo. Fnatic's gone as well. 2 kills over to C9, and APA's done a great job stalling out the fight 1v2, but eventually the damage adds up. APA is gone as well, and that's going to be this Baron picked up by Cloud9.
Great recognition from C9. That TP coming in. It splits off Array from the rest of his team. We talk so much about how, with the Sion mid, you have to be really careful about how you position, how you manage your damage dealers in these fights. And watch this TP. Array's still in base. They're just trying to get vision, trying to fight for the crabs again, stall out the Baron. C9 realize it's spawning. They lay a trap. The TP's perfect. And the double TP instantly. Look at Array. He was going bottom. He wouldn't pick up the red buff. He's so far away from this fight. That's the damage dealer. So C9 gets to play a 5v4. And no matter what Resolve does at this deficit, they're going down against those odds. As C9 AM, they clean him up. They get the Baron. They give themselves the best chance that they need to move past this group. As they are looking to beat their second place finish in Risen with something better here. They need to make playoffs first. They're checking all the boxes to try and do that in this game.
And what a tragedy for Resolve, who time and time again are demonstrating their mechanical prowess in these team fights, but just not having the map play to quite give them the edge versus a team as good as Cloud9 Amateur, who do seem to have their number in this series. It's game 3. It comes down to this for their hopes in this tournament. Loser is eliminated. Winner goes to quarterfinals.
It's a tough task for Resolve, especially after that early game, as Speedo and XU really turning things around, and then Shrimps and XU just ran away with it from there. As it's now with the Baron, full court press is on. A lot of key summoners down for Resolve. They can't pull off a flash engage from anyone except for Winter. As the flash still being up on XU, Wixie, Speedo. This has to be respected by Resolve. They're trying to play this one slow, trying to keep their turrets alive. But under this 4-1 siege is going to be difficult.
Cloud9 looking to put the nail in the coffin of this game. APA got enough wave clear, that's hard. PCL at Array, similar problem in the mid lane. You can see the Baron damage kind of adding up, half HP on that mid inhibitor turret. It's not enough, and it's not falling fast enough. Cloud9 seeming a little impatient here.
And in this 4-1 split, APA can always press R and try and go for an engage. Has to be very careful about how he positions on this Scion. As if he goes too far in, there are so many things that can control him in the team fights, which is why we see his scoreline being 2-5. As
a single ward opens that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see XU being able to force Fnatic away by landing the resonating strike.
That's one.
That opens the mid turret, mid inhibitor. And now it's impossible to defend the bottom inhibitor because APA is about to get flanked. He's trying to hold this as best he can, stepping up forward into the members of C9, zoning them off of the wave. And the hope that his HP makes this difficult to deal with, but he's going to get rooted. Shrimp zoning him back. APA pulled forward by Speedo. Will be able to stay behind the turret. Speedo goes in with the ulti, synced with XU. Array, Gale forces towards the turret. He's down in the middle of the fight. Moonfall from Fnatic will slow things down, but it doesn't do enough because Wixie is just chipping away at the side of this fight. It's a triple kill to Captain Shrimps and a complete ace as Cloud9 wind things up. It took them 3 games, but they knocked down Resolve and lock their way into playoffs.
We were talking about the flashes being down on the side of Resolve and the fact that XU, Speedo, Wixie all had theirs up as APA was trying to stall out the wave, but it gave enough time for C9 to get that angle where the ward dash into the kick flash from XU puts Array into a solar flare, into a WR combo from Shrimps onto the block. Beautiful team play from C9 as they wipe Array off the map, wipe Resolve out of this series, out of the playoffs as well. And C9 secure their spot in the EGL playoffs.
What a game. What an impressive series. I can't wait to see what both those teams do as we continue forward in the Proving Grounds. Resolve demonstrating their macro play, their awareness of the map. Yes, their strengths in the one game of the series they win, but Cloud9 demonstrate as well that they are the better team. Always a step ahead.
Yeah, they win the rubber match, and I think that XU, a highlight player for me in their 2 wins. Oh my goodness, the Graves and the Lee Sin performances. He was the one that was the big difference maker in our key matchup too, going up against Fnatic. That's a dynamite jungler as well. Resolve, their trail in EGL ends. This is the first Tier 2 that they missed the playoffs for, but we will see them in the Tier 1 for United Grand Prix, and I think they're a team that a lot of people will have to look out for, is much like last season, the spring Proving Grounds split, where the majority of their team was Barrage. They might be seated a little bit lower than a lot of teams have them and might be able to take some surprise games off of teams in UEA, but for now, all eyes have to go over to C9 Amateur, who continue their improved split and a second-place finish in Risen. I think they're looking for more. They did drop that series at TSM, but Wixie said that really gave our focus back, took the cockiness out of our play. We went back, looked, figured out what was wrong, and man, did their 2 wins look good here today.
And all eyes, at least those watching the amateur scene in North America, need to go to tomorrow, the first day of playoffs here at the Summer Showdown, as we set things up for a absolutely astonishing day. We do, as you said, Cubby, have one more game today. That's going to be Kangas and Joshi stepping in to cover it, though, as we head towards AoE Esports versus Maryville. That's also going to be a banger, and you won't want to miss it. We're going to step away for now and throw things over to the desk, where Rafa can break down that game and set us up for the day ahead.
Thank you, TJ. But I think the only thing I'm going to be breaking is all of my Lee Sin achievements, because they'll never be as good as Lawrence in that one Lee Sin game. So it makes me a little sad that I'll never be as good as him. But man, it's very easy for us to get caught up in the flashy mechanics that EXU performed on the Lee Sin, and Cubby and TJ already spoke praise. But we actually want to shed a little bit of light on one of the players that actually surprised all three of us on the desk that didn't get as much credit and praise, is actually Speedo for this top laner, because when we go back to this spring roster, I think it was kind of agreed for a lot of the colleagues in the scene that Speedo was more so the weakest link on this roster, that he had the most improvement they had to make in a world in this roster where you have players like EXU, who comes from Collegiate, Captain Shrimps also, as Cubby mentioned, from Waterloo, and then of course Wixie and Breezy. Wixie coming from Harrisburg, and I think Breezy going from 100 Thieves Academy coming into this. But this level 1, and the way Speedo played out his lane against Piecake Lord, knowing Revel that this is someone that they got the blind pick Aurelia for.
They did. It was, you wait a little while, you have this set up. This was really beautiful because, again, it pulls the wave up, and then also he was able to set up what would be eventually a dive coming in. So this is a level 1 game plan from Speedo that he's communicating to his team off the back of, Piecake Lord. He started W to initiate the lane, and so Speedo forcing that play immediately inside of this lane means Pi has no absolute control whatsoever what's going to happen with this wave. So eventually slow crash it, prepare for a dive on top side, and again, things like this would happen over a game. Unfortunately, this dive doesn't go particularly well, but outside of that, it was a pretty immaculate setup for Speedo on this top side, where he was just kind of bullying the entire game.
Yeah, we won't show the part where the dive gets completely botched, because it was, I will give credit to Resolve. Resolve had a great counter response. The play, though, and the setup and everything was good from Cloud9 Amateur. However, to save Speedo some face, we won't show the flash away mispositioning the Haymaker, because to his credit, Jolly, that is the only time he died that entire game, because we even got a solo kill return on Piecake Lord despite Resolve having that counter response.
Yeah, and even that one, you could tell the moment that it happened, Speedo was very upset with himself. Honestly, going into this, though, I think everyone did a really good job, in Speedo in particular, of avoiding PCL's hard stun. If you can avoid that on the Aurelia and allow yourself to get a lot of damage on her, there we can see. And that one, we were kind of considering the fact that maybe Speedo had the ultimate up, and it wasn't quite, PCL wasn't quite aware that the ultimate was there and available for that fight. But still, a really good job of fancy footing around on top of it, not just playing out everything really well, but holding on to that Haymaker to the last possible moment to wait for the rest of the team to arrive, to ensure that the enemy has gone too deep. And that happened time and time again. So many plays coming off of the initial start of Speedo's plays as that set, certainly changing things around for the rest of the team.
And you go back to the original game plan formula that Resolve had in Game 2, which was get Piecake Lord on lane to win, and then you use Fnatic's pressure to snowball him ahead even further. It worked out when they had the Viego Jace set up against Speedo's Renekton, but as soon as you start dropping kills in lane to the set as the Aurelia, and you can no longer split against in this lane, then Resolve are kind of in a panic mode, and they have to start trying to find team fights out of nowhere. And in the skirmishes that they had, there's a lot of creative things that we saw from the draft, but the amount of mobility that was available to Cloud9 Amateur, when you look at the limited amount of crowd control that Resolve had, goes to show why Lawrence, aka XU, was the star of the show on this Lee Sin here, Rebel.
Yeah, it was a handful of situations through the whole series. XU has been amazing. This game was no different, as like this was kind of the breaking point that had set everything up to this. But again, XU was also kind of a driving force. Top lane had a couple of nice plays, and their lanes obviously were in good places. But this right here was really the setup that XU was able to drive to make sure his team was alive. Because when you lose Wixie this early into the fight, it requires a bunch of extra kind of effort to be thrown into everyone else. XU finding that assassination or helping find that assassination. And better yet, stalling for time so that Speedo, who is coming from top lane, could actually arrive in time. It speaks to just like how thought out that C9 has become over time. Because when we saw this team on their initial play at the beginning of last split, we were like, okay, this team, we had high expectations, or at least good expectations, but they weren't at this level yet. And this level of communication, this level of preparedness that they have for setting up their own plays, setting up their own fights, clearly has elevated well beyond anything that we could have expected, at least when we first saw the iteration of this team. All of that based on XU, who has just been immaculate for this team. He's kind of, I guess, like the pawn, or the king, queen, whatever you want to call it in chess, that sits behind everything and is really just like the pivotal moving pieces for the squad.
He is the Messi for any international football fans, and shout out also to Argentina for winning Copa America, Lionel Messi's first international trophy with his home country. But he is the playmaker, right? He is the one that is setting up and facilitating these executions and plays for Cloud9 Amateur to succeed in. And, you know, for me and Jolly, coming from the collegiate scene with our history, it's always nice to see collegiate players being able to transition out of the collegiate phase, where you might see even more crazy things crazier than you would see in semi-pro and amateur. But I think the amount of growth from players like XU, from Wixie, as well from these players that we saw a lot in collegiate in prior years past, being picked up for this Cloud9 Amateur roster at the beginning of the year, which, you know, as Rebel mentioned, there's a lot of skepticism about this whole roster being formed, but they're the second seed going into Proving Grounds. They don't even necessarily need to compete in the Unified Grand Prix Tier 1 that is coming up, because they already have a spot there.
You know, I think, too, something else really to touch on about these collegiate players and the road that they've made here is the most successful ones, the ones that immediately jump up to these amateur teams, these academy teams, and find a lot of success, are the ones who are focused very much on communication and improving themselves, but also being team players. The players that you see getting incredible KDAs are not necessarily the ones that are going to be signed over to the pro teams, because maybe they can't play well or communicate well or take even shot calls well when it comes from another teammate or a player. So to see that in C9, to see such a quick adaptation of a lot of these players on this amateur team already finding the cohesion that you sometimes don't even see on the pro level is exceptional.
And, you know, just growth and development in general is always just an awesome thing to see, as whether it's over years from one space to another, or just even within the same year, as Rebel already pointed out in the beginning of the year. You know, Cloud9 Amateur going from one of the middle of the pack teams that didn't make it to the Proving Grounds final tournament to now they already got their spot, right? And we're going to take a look at the final Group B standings here, as TSM Amateur, they knocked out OQ in a 2-0 convincing fashion, and Cloud9 Amateur are able to complete the 2-1 over Resolve. Resolve did have a nice and solid attempt in trying to turn things around, as this potentially could have been their saving grace in keeping their playoffs hopes alive. But we will see them, because in the upcoming Grand Prix Tier 1 tournament. So any Resolve fans in the chat who are a little sad over the loss, you know, don't worry. You'll still see your boys competing to go to Proving Grounds, as we'll be showing you our full group list as well, because our last match, our second series of the day between AoE and Maryville, will be shown, which will basically determine whether one of these two teams getting the second seed or getting one of the other 1 to 2 seeds, because 100 Thieves next, even if they drop this series to Glaive, they still would be at max 2-1. And Glaive would be 1-2, and then whoever wins out of MU and AoE gets the other 2-1, and so, you know, those 2 seeds would be the determining. So for MU and AoE, this means a lot, as, you know, both of these teams I kind of want to go to Rebel for this Maryville kind of setup first, because Maryville University have a lot of expectations going into this group. A lot of them kind of heralded them as the number 1 seed, especially off of their performance not only from the Gateway Legends Collegiate Invitational, but also their surge through Risen as well. If they were to drop this series to AoE, what does that mean for the team going into the rest of the Proving Grounds split?
It's obviously a tough loss, right? And especially for a team that's just kind of finding their constitution among all these other rosters, starting to find success, things like that. The last thing you would want is to take a confidence blow like that, where you end up falling out in groups the same way you did in your initial tournament, especially for a team against like 100 Thieves, who they've beaten before. They were able to beat them in previous tournaments and things like that. And against other teams like AoE, which is another really top competitor, it would be tragic. And to fall short like that would be pretty bad. And it would hurt. It would affect the mental of the team, I think, more than some of the squads who have been playing through every single, split together, who have been together for a longer time. A team like C9 could have bounced back from losing tonight, maybe losing their spot, but somebody like Maryville might be more affected just because their team is only just starting to come together. So if they start to see that foundation crack, they might, lose a little bit of that tenacity. Not that that expectation is there for them, but AoE also has some of that because they brought in a new support recently, so there's that to consider as well. Neither of these teams want to have their confidence shaken tonight by just being dropped out after having been beaten down by 100 Thieves throughout the entire group phase.
Yeah, 100 Thieves Next has emerged out of the woodworks like TSM Amateur, unexpectedly dominating the respective groups. We'll see if 100 Thieves Next can continue emerging as the first seed, or if Glaive, in their last defiance against the projected number 1 seed in this group so far, to see if they can take a series off of them. But we're going to be going for a short break, ladies and gentlemen, as we get ready and swap gears and dive right in further into this MU AoE series.